There is a suspected Chinese spy balloon floating over Montana. I walk into the green room and Jack Posobiec's standing there with his phone out and he's like, did you see this? They did a press conference with a Chinese spy balloon. I'm like, wait, what? Then he's like, they scrambled F22 Raptors. And I'm like, what the is going on? So apparently we'll talk about that lead story. Joe Biden wanted to shoot it down. And then they told him no because allegedly because of the debris. They were like, no, we can't do it. So then we were like, did they really scramble F-22 Raptors for this? And they did. So I guess that's the lead story. We'll talk about that. In other news, Democrats literally screamed no, like the meme when they removed Ilhan Omar from her committees, and some even cried. It's just so crazy. So we'll definitely talk about the political space, and then. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. This is a weird story. Apparently, the DEA has confirmed they are investigating whether the rumors that Tyree Nichols was romantically involved with the ex-wife of one of the cops. So that actually confirmed. Newsweek reporting that actually might be it. It might not be a cop thing at all. It might be a dude banging another dude's wife or ex-wife, and then they got revenge on him or something. So. Yeah, don't look at me. I don't know. The story seems weird. But anyway, we'll talk about it. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member to support our work. Click that Join Us button, and you can support our work directly. So this show, the work that I do over at youtube.com/Timcast, and all of our members-only shows will be available to you and are supported. Of course, I can't forget Project Veritas released another massive story. This one, they were holding out on us. Because this drop has the Pfizer director saying crazy stuff. He's saying like they are mutating the virus. Outright says they are doing it. Talks about menstrual cycle stuff. So you can see that on the front page, timcast.com. As a member, you are supporting our journalists. And we're also working on cultural endeavors. This coffee shop, it's coming. Everything takes forever. And now we're hearing that the actual coffee product, which they told us like 2 months ago, would take 7 days to set up. Now they're saying 6 weeks or something. It's so annoying. Way. But I'm like, can we just put in a paper bag and slap a label on it? Let's just get it going. But with your help, we are going to make these cultural moves. We're going to have physical space for people to hang out. So I'm really excited for that. We're going to have a members-only show coming up for you at about 11 p.m. tonight. You don't want to miss it, so become a member at timcast.com. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight, of course, is Jack Posobiec.
Look, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not even going to introduce myself. That balloon should have been blown sky high the minute that it crossed U.S. airspace. And every single second that it hangs there is another reminder of just how owned our politicians, our system, our businesses are by the Chinese Communist Party. They should have lit it up. That is not a surveillance package, not a balloon. It's a target.
No.
It is a target.
It's not a surveillance balloon. It's a trial balloon.
It is.
They're trying to see what they can get through. But let's say.
And by the way, they say it's not the first time it's happened.
We'll get into that. So, Jack Posobiec, thanks for hanging out.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Hannah Claire Brimelow's hanging out.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com.
That's easy.
I agree. They should have blown that thing up, or at least now I'm thinking they should capture it, throw a big net around it, bring it down, break it apart, look at what it actually is. Anyway, let's talk about it later on the show. Update on Bucko. He got his first injection of stem cells today.
He got it?
Got it today.
Oh, okay,
resting
good.
comfortably in my room, letting his body heal. So in 2 weeks, we're going to go in for the next dose.
Do they don't need to harvest any more stem cells? They keep
exactly. They have like this mother culture that they will infinitely be able to make stem cells forever now.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I found out, this is funny, I could have taken him 10 minutes away to get the whole process done.
No.
I drove 5 hours to the New York clinic.
For the memories, for the adventure.
It was. Wesley, Aaron, we did it together.
Cool, man.
We all went together, yeah.
I'm glad to hear
And a shout out to Hopewell Animal Hospital in New York, obviously. You guys were fantastic. And I'll let you know more as it comes up.
Yeah, let's get in. We got Serge pressing the buttons.
Yo, what's up? Serge.com, at Serge.com. Been fighting on Twitter, fighting the good fight. It's been fun. I'm really tired of that site. But I'll be there for you guys. I'm going to fix Ian's camera here, so take it away, Tim.
Thanks, let's jump into this first story. We have this from the Daily Mail. Chinese spy balloon the size of 3 buses is spotted floating over Montana for days as U.S. mobilizes F-22 Raptors to intercept. Biden wanted to shoot it down, but Pentagon advised him not to because of falling debris.
Don't buy it.
They say defense officials discussed shooting out of the sky on Wednesday while it was above Billings, Montana, but decided instead to monitor it closely. F-22 Raptors were sent from Nellis Air Force Base in southern Nevada, but they did not engage with the object. Now, you got this picture here of a tiny dot, but we got you. Look at this thing. It's got solar panels. That's like solar panels, right? Look at that. So
what you're looking at is a technology package. Those are sensors.
Yeah. This is a trial balloon.
Those are sensors.
Like it's literally a spy balloon, right? But I think the reason they did it was to see what they can get away with. And they got away with a lot.
They're getting away with whatever they want.
This thing could be carrying, what if this was a bomb? What if it was some kind of weapon? Or what if it causes Savannah syndrome? Who knows?
Well, of course, keep in mind that what they're doing is they're also judging our response. And that's your point with the trial balloon.
Exactly.
So they're going to see how long did it take them to scramble fighters? How long did it take for the balloon to stay there before we scrambled anything up? Is there a diplomatic response? What's the diplomatic? Are they going to put sanctions? Are they going to put tariffs? Keep in mind that you have to look at all of this through the lens of Taiwan, because we know that will be potentially another military flashpoint if we continue our escalation in
they just went into high alert,
right?
Scrambling. They started mobilizing their air defense.
Right, they just scrambled a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
so
because
this has been happening since Biden got in office, basically.
I think this is a bad sign. If China mobilized a bunch of jets and warships, and they've been escalating, firing rockets over Taiwan. Mm-hmm. Taiwan is now mobilizing its defenses. What if this spy balloon is literally to track our response to Taiwan and what they're doing, and they're trying to gather as much information as possible? Well,
the spy balloon itself, and we have to go into what does America have in Montana that could be interesting to the CCP, and I guarantee you it's not just farmland, by the way.
Is it a 4-letter acronym?
It is, which acronym do you mean?
ICBM?
Yes, ICBM, exactly. So the Air Force Base, that when you watch a movie and you see the nuclear silos and the nuclear missiles pop out, one of the 3 fields where we have them, about 150 nuclear long-range nuclear-tipped missiles, the intercontinental ballistic missiles that were within range of China. And these are not the only ones, but this is a key component of the new U.S. nuclear triad, which is located in Montana specifically. That's why I think we may have been on here before once, and you were talking about which state would you want to be if the U.S. fell apart, and I said, well, Montana has nukes, so I'd pick Montana.
It'd be one of the most powerful countries in the world if the U.S. fell apart.
Current military installations in Montana. We have 3 radar sites in Carter County. We have Fort William Henry Harrison in Lewis and Clark County, and Maelstrom Air Force Base in Cascade County.
So Maelstrom's the one that has it, and so of course what they're going to be doing is, now it's also interesting because of course China has spy satellites the same way that we have spy satellites. So we have to look at why are they using a balloon to do this when obviously during the Cold War, for example, the U.S. had the U-2 spy plane. This was aka the Dragon Lady. So there was a pilot who was shot down at one point. It became a POW situation. He was eventually turned over. We had overflights, they had overflights, but then that's largely turned toward, and we still do it, but it's largely turned towards a satellite game at this point. Actually, funny enough, there was an episode of Rogan recently where they were talking about the NGA, and I think it was with Tim Dillon, and each of them weren't really sure what the NGA did. It's spy satellites. That's what the NGA does, National Geospatial Information Agency, or Intelligence Agency, and so. The Chinese have this capability as well, signals, imagery, etc. So if you want something that's people are looking at this as high, but from an intelligence collection platform, this is actually low.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it the kind of thing where we have such high tech surveillance things that the low tech stuff can get through now? Like, that kind of thing where you have radars, but you can't see the thing right in front of your face.
Like LiDAR, maybe.
We talked about.
I mean, they could be mapping the nuclear silos.
You know that famous story where they did like a war game with the old guard and the new guard, and then the old guys won, and they're like, "How did you do it?" And they're like, "We sent a motorcycle courier with the information, so you couldn't intercept it." And I was like, "That's the big deal." What I'm thinking about this balloon is what's worrying to me. And let me know what you think. If China's getting ready to attack. And they know the U.S. will respond to an attack on Taiwan, then they're not concerned. Like a criminal who is going to rob a liquor store is not concerned that he's breaking the law with guns because he's planning on breaking the law in whole. If China's planning and engaging in a military operation they know will create conflict with the U.S., they don't care if we get mad about a balloon. They want to know what we are mobilizing and where.
No, it's kind of an interesting point that you make because we know that they have the balloon there. We know that we sent F-22s up. The question is there something that the U.S. government isn't telling us that China was also doing, that they were trying to track the response to our silos? Would there be a cyber attack of Taiwan? Would there be something that maybe not rise to the level of kinetic, like a blockade or a missile strike, and they were trying to test our response to see if we went nuclear with this. But that being said,
this might be a trial balloon for when they do launch their attack in Taiwan. And they're going to want to gauge our response with these Air Force bases in Montana.
I've got a feeling they were in Canada along with the Canadian government's approval, and it got blown off course. I think that might be what happened.
Well, I mean, look, they're currently in the United States.
So basically Canada is operating as a CCP ship.
They're currently in the United States with U.S. government approval.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've been here for like, what, 3 days?
We should have shut it. And I think everybody knows that if President Trump were in there, we're in the White House, I mean, we would have found out this thing because something would have blown up in the sky, and then we would have gotten a tweet saying something like, I mean, just imagine the tweet, Chairman Xi, I burst your bubble. We have
this tweet.
Absolutely gone.
The U.S. State Department has reportedly summoned the Chinese ambassador over the Chinese spy balloon, which has been detected flying over northern Montana.
Oh boy, maybe another strongly worded letter will come next.
No. A physical wag of the finger to his face.
Ooh, even worse. Even they're really going to give it to him. Severe,
shaking in their boots over
Remember
there.
when Antony Blinken was talking to China and they just told him to shut up?
So that was in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yep.
And they went up, and Blinken went in there. I remember this because they were. Whenever you're holding one of these summits like this, and he met with Yang Jiechi, which is sort of the interlocutor for the CCP. He's the former Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, but he's currently on the Politburo. And even though he's the former minister, he's sort of the point man for when it comes to international affairs, Yang Jiechi. And he just ate his lunch. He just completely ate his lunch, and Blinken was saying we're going to set the new normal with China, and we're going to establish the new norms and put this all right. All of those messy Trump years are going to be behind us. And he basically told him that you're nothing to us. You treated him like he treated him like a student, like a little boy almost. Like he basically just said you have no power here. The old like Lord of the Rings.
He said you're not negotiating from a position of power.
That's right.
The U.S. has nothing. Amazing.
You have nothing. We have everything. And so every day, and I want people to look at this spy balloon, and I want particularly older members of the audience who remember the U.S. during the Cold War and remember our response to the Cuban Missile Crisis or our response to anything that had to do with a direct threat to the American homeland. This would not have been tolerated for even 1 second during the Cold War. But today, we're told, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. They've done it a few times already. And this package doesn't even... It's not about the censors that are on this. It's about the U.S. response from a political and a military, obviously a military being directed by the political perspective, that if we don't have the political will to defend the homeland against any threat, that just shows, once again, that we are distracted. We are being worn thin in places like Eurasia, where we're currently flooding tanks, money every single day, fighting Russia in this proxy war that we're in with Russia. And now China is considering, and Professor Mearsheimer has talked about this, China is considering opening up what would essentially be for us a second front in a two-front global conflict.
We can't, like World War II. We're not going to be able to handle it.
Meanwhile, Israel just attacked Iran the other day too. So, I mean, how many fronts do you want?
This is like going to be a legit world war. It's funny. They talk about World War I and II, and it's like, Europe, World War II. You had Japan, Imperial Japan, but it's kind of like that was its own thing. And there were some, there was obviously concern with the U.S. and U.S. expansion and stuff like that. So it was like World War, but large portions of the world weren't actively involved. That's why you have First World, Second World, Third World, etc. But this time, it's gearing up to be everywhere.
Today is the 80th anniversary of the end of Stalingrad. Mm-hmm. Today is 80 years ago today, the bloodiest conflict in human history ended. The surrender of the German Sixth Army, Field Marshal Paulus, became the highest ranking POW, I think in potentially all of World War II. When he surrendered at Stalingrad, but 2 million people, civilians and military, died in the span of 5 months.
The World War II
in one city.
It was air power. The reason it wasn't on every piece of soil is because the B-52s couldn't reach. Or I guess was it the B-52 at that point? Mm-hmm. The massive bomber. They still had like local range. Britain to Germany back, and then the V-2 rockets. Germany to Britain. Now we have lasers from space. We have interorbital bomb strikers. There's nowhere is safe on Earth now.
Well, it's all about this, right? This is exactly what they're focused on, because when Putin gets up there and says this isn't World War II anymore and we have the ability to strike anywhere on the planet, that is the reality of nuclear war. And that's why the Cold War stayed cold, because there's an interesting dichotomy where obviously nuclear weapons are the most powerful weapon that's ever been created, but they also have this secondary nature whereby it creates for almost a more peaceful war, or a more peaceful world, because if everyone has the ability to destroy everyone else and end all of civilization, it's like everybody standing in the world holding a hand grenade with the pin out and your thumbs down. So, all right, well, I'm not going to drop my hand grenade. You're not going to drop yours either. And then we're all just stuck that way.
And then what is
and then we have to deal with each other.
Trying to, like, non-proliferation agreements where, like, hey, we're going to break down all our nuclear weapons, but no one ever does it. Is that the thing?
I mean, why would you? You put down your hand grenade. Right. No, you put yours down
and
first.
like, no, let's do it at the same time.
Let's do it at the same time.
I got a guy in the back room. He may or may not be building hand grenades, but let's just set our hand grenades down at the same time.
And so my point is, it's not in any country's strategic interest to do this. Much has been brought up of the fact that Ukraine did have some nuclear weapons at the fall of the Soviet Union, and which were later transported to Russia, and now that's why they don't have them during this conflict.
Well, let's talk about this story from Daily Mail. Putin issues threat to U.S. Vladimir says we will deploy more than tanks and warns we have friends on the American continent. Apparently, they're saying that he's brought the nuclear football with him, the Russian version of it, and he's making a direct threat to the United States over we're sending these tanks, or German tanks are being sent to Ukraine. Basically, it's NATO. It's all the same thing. And if they use depleted uranium cores or something like, or uranium cores in general, he will consider that nuclear war. Mm-hmm. So China, Russia, how close are we? You think?
Well, I do think it's funny that that every once in a while, if I tweet something about, hey, you should have emergency food, or you should be preparing, or you should have a good pillow to sleep on every night.
When you're in the post-apocalyptic world, buildings are falling apart. You're gonna wish you had a good pillow.
You're gonna wish that. How could you stay awake at night? And keep in mind that just a couple of days ago, Mike Lindell prepared for this, that out of nowhere, Mike Lindell has been working on a secret project to design and just dropped MyPillow 2.
Is that why they floated the balloon? They're trying to figure out what he's
They're trying they don't want it to just get to Montana. They want to get to Minnesota.
Right, it's on
because
route.
They're trying to get the secret technology. Ilhan Omar is clearly involved. This is why that when she got kicked off, the Chinese are responding to her being kicked off, because she was supposed to be working with the pillow conspiracy, working in conjunction with the reverse vampires, that they wanted to steal the technology from MyPillow 2.
That's the problem with sleeping upside down.
We can't allow this.
Xi Jinping is sitting in an office room with like all of his commanders and generals, and they've got a bunch of MyPillows, and he's like, how? And he slams the table.
怎么会有MyPillow？第二个我不知道。这个 Mike Lindell 的话。
But no, go back to your point. You're saying when you tell people to get emergency food and take the stuff seriously.
Right, I say take it seriously, and then they call you crazy, they call you Tim Foyle, and then you turn on the news, and Putin's talking about nuking the United States and Brussels and London and everything else. China's got spy balloons over Montana, over our nuclear
Raptors.
arsenals, where we scrambled F22, our most advanced fifth generation fighter. But you're crazy for wanting some, a little bit of extra food supply for your family to have it in the garage or the trunk of your car.
I was warning everybody. You gotta buy chickens.
That's right.
You gotta get chicken. And now there's an egg shortage.
I tweeted this. That you were the guy.
Yeah, it's funny. So we normally have like 180 eggs just stacked on the counters because we're getting like 30 per day. And then when the egg shortage hit, one day I come into the office, the building, the studio, and I look in the kitchen and they're all gone. Like I'm constantly telling the people who work here, like, guys, take some eggs with you because we have too many. You got to eat them. And like some are getting like 2 weeks old. Now I don't need to say anything. The egg shortage hit, and people took those eggs.
I think that coincided with Luke Rutkowski leaving the office. He may or may not have taken a few eggs.
All of our eggs go missing.
Didn't they say it was something to do with the chicken feed?
No, it was a flu.
Yeah. It was an
avian flu or something is killing these birds.
I've also heard Purina. People were like, "Don't buy Purina." I don't know if Purina is doing anything right or wrong.
There was something about chicken feed. You're right.
No, I thought there was something about, like, there was a chicken feed and it was like a central issue, and then that hurt a lot of chickens, and then they went down, which led to supply chain issues. Like, guys,
chickens are great.
Think about how bad our country is at this point, when we're living through the collapse of complex systems every day, and we fail at just basic maintenance of our supply chains and pretty much everything, where we can't even do eggs anymore. We can't even handle eggs.
People watch. So I just finished watching 1883. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, and it's funny because I know my wife is watching, and sweetheart, you're the reason that we haven't watched it yet.
But
you should watch it.
But I do want to.
But just seeing people who are right. So,
but
I'm not going to spoil.
I had to introduce her to Chevy Chase first.
It's like a year and a half, 2 years old already. So, but I'm not going to spoil anything because some people may not have seen it. But there's just many things that happen where you're like, man, I can't believe they couldn't deal with that problem. It's like, I'll give you an example. It's like, oh, I stubbed my toe. Is it bleeding? Guess I'll die. Nowadays, it's like we have a ton of things you can do. We're not worried about infection. We wash it with soap. Usually fine. You can then maybe put antiseptic on it. Usually fine. Like, did they not? They didn't even know to put whiskey on their wounds. I guess they did. Did they? Like,
some people did and some people didn't. I mean, it wasn't universal knowledge. Like, I'm listening to this podcast.
Well, this is the Civil War.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
issue.
Splash some whiskey on the wound. He's good.
Right. It sounds like a joke, but like, it would actually work. I'm listening to this podcast about the Kennedy family and just like about the children, their race, whatever. And they had one daughter who was like severely mentally handicapped and
they
eventually
lobotomized
her. And the podcast hosts were Rosemary.
Rosemary.
Eunice was her sister. So I'm super into this right
now.
now. She's the one who like cared for her and eventually started the Special Olympics. But the podcast hosts, these two girls who are doing it, were saying like, it seems obvious to us that we're like, don't let her get the lobotomy. But at the time, fewer than 100 people had gone through the surgery. There was a chance it was cutting edge. They said it worked so well. Jeez. And it's this crazy gamble, which did not work, made her much worse, was terrible in the end. But like, this is this whole, it's easier for us to look back on 1883 or these time periods where it was all experimental. They didn't know how they were going to survive. They just needed to.
See, I always think about, what are people going to say about the 2020s, 50 years from now, 100 years from now? What are they going to go back and say, oh my gosh, these people kept radioactive microwave ovens in their homes. Yeah. They put food in them, or whatever it is that they look back. You could have lived to be 200 years old. Why would you do this?
Here's the scary thing. So watch 1883, watch The Last of Us. And there's a scene in The Last of Us that is also very good, where Ellie and Joel are walking down the street, and then she's like, they see a crashed plane, and she's like, "Did you used to ride in those?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Wow, that's so cool. You got to go in the sky." And he goes, "It seemed like it at the time." And that's the main point. With all this stuff and this threat of war, people need to realize what makes it possible for us to. I got two monitors right in front of me. We have a TV up on the wall. I could never make one of these in my entire life. If someone came to me and said, "I will give you $1 billion, make a TV," I'd be like, I guess I buy glass and plastic, I don't metal. I'm not going to be able to make this. It's crazy. Yeah. You need all of the people and all the different specialties. So as infrastructure starts collapsing, or if war really does kick off, there's going to be little things that you once thought were so stupid and mundane, you're going to be begging for. And that's why I've often said, when we're talking about this or Civil War or otherwise, think about something that's extremely common and useful in your house, but also extremely difficult to synthesize. What do you think that is? And then buy it. I was thinking, is it maybe mouthwash? How hard is it to make it? It's not really that hard to make alcohol. So maybe not. But I'm thinking like, I don't know anybody. I know people who could probably make alcohol, like whiskey or something. You could figure it out. But like a harsher antiseptic, like, what we have with mouthwash, although whiskey probably works. But what do you guys think that is? Like
soap. I'm doubling down on soap.
I think soap.
I'm bullish on soap.
Soap actually is relatively easy to make.
Yeah, just saponify some oils.
What's that? Just
use saponify oils, hence the word soap.
Saponify oils? What do you
saponify oils.
Oh, okay.
What if you have children? Milk.
Oh, that's
food in general.
I mean, that was the thing with the baby formula shortage, right? Like all of a sudden at this point where it was
That's
critical.
Crazy. People didn't understand that babies can't just eat stuff.
Well, this is where you got those
Give a baby
stories.
a nice big steak.
And since I threw Tanya under the bus a second ago, I'll do her a favor, because she was tweeting about that story where this mother was trying to brought her baby into an ER. I forget exactly where it was. And the baby was completely malnourished. And she said, "I don't understand. I feed her milk every day."
But it was almond milk,
and it was
right?
almond milk. And she said, "Well, yeah, because we're vegan. And so we're trying to raise the baby vegan." And they were like, "This baby is in danger of dying. It's severely malnourished. You can't just make up these decisions. I mean, there's a very specific set of nutrients that especially young children need."
Yeah, and especially with that argument, like if you're a vegan and you're saying, oh, giving my kids cow's milk is disrupting the cow's natural system, like you're not stopping the cow's baby from drinking its milk. Why would you stop your baby from drinking milk you specifically produce for it? Like it's illogical, but it's just so ideological in this idea that, well, we're vegans, so nothing produced by animals.
Vitamin
doesn't
C.
make any sense.
Where do you get your vitamin C? We get it from China.
Yeah.
No joke. That's crazy.
You'd have to.
So I ordered. We
grow
ordered.
carrots.
I think we ordered a bunch of buckets.
That's
of,
good.
Of powdered vitamin C.
Yeah.
They make it from black mold.
Wow, that's
they're
weird. Yeah, carrots. You think? Is that what you said?
Carrots. You need. I mean, if you've
Peppers
got.
have it.
I actually live.
Rose hips. Yeah.
I do live on a lake, so we've got fish. We can,
Fish has vitamin C in it.
No, but they have fish oil.
Yeah.
So you can at least, and they've got vitamin B12. They've got
That's-
a bunch of stuff in there.
This is the
Zinc.
crazy thing to me watching 1883. They're like, well, we got beef, so we got food. And I'm like, you just live off of beef that's it? You you don't need anything, like that's it. That's crazy.
And they think they have like small amounts of like stuff that they had like preserved beforehand, right? Like for me, I can't say what substance I would like want to know how to make, but I just generally would like to get better at like jarring things or preserving food, right? Because if you can grow all kinds of fresh food, that's great. But if you can't make it last the winter, then come any kind of apocalypse, you're done.
But keep in mind, Tim, that our society today, as it currently stands, is the aberration. What we're talking about is the last 10,000 years of human history was exactly that. It was, where are the plentiful forests where I can go and hunt game? And then obviously agriculture comes along, and okay, we're gonna have towns, we're gonna have society, we're gonna have civilization. But when society breaks down, the question is, since we've become so accustomed to living this type of life that we have, which is extremely luxurious, that we don't have the ability to just fend for ourselves, basically. And I think with Last of Us, that's a great example. You mentioned that thing about the plane, they see a plane crash, right? And I think about it when a couple of years ago, I took my kids to Cape Canaveral, and I remember they have one of the last space shuttles, I think it's the Atlantis, they have in the warehouse there. That it's in the museum, but you can go see it. And I remember thinking, when I was a kid, we had spaceships, and we had this thought, particularly in the 90s, prior to 9/11, that it was going to be spaceships, and then the next thing was going to be colonies, and then we were just going to keep pushing out for the lunar colony first, and then Mars was going to be next, and we were just going to keep going. And this was our destiny, right? This is the way we're going to work on things now, and that somewhere along the line, 9/11 happens, we decide to invade the Middle East, then we decide to invade more of the Middle East that wasn't involved in 9/11, then further countries that had nothing to do with the Middle East. Now we're in Eurasia because we've always been at war with Eurasia. And we don't seem to have ever gotten back to that basic idea of human progress.
Did you watch that video that went viral recently on Twitter where it's a high school workout in 1962? And all the young men are like basically in boot camp.
Yeah.
They're doing... Man, they're swinging from those bars. I don't know what they're called. Like they're holding their own body weight.
Monkey bars?
It's not monkey bars. They're
like vertical.
Yeah, they're vertical.
Wow, Ian. Wow.
I don't know.
I really dropped the ball on that one.
Really just
But man,
nuke in the stream, man.
We
rolling poles.
I don't know what happened to this country, but I kind of feel like the night is always darkest before the dawn. And so as long as you are working on being self-sufficient.
DAWN or DON?
Before the dawn?
Ooh.
The dawn.
The night.
The night is always darkest before it becomes orange.
I mean, that's actually a really interesting thing you just mentioned. The dawn is orange, and so is the dawn.
That's right.
And the night is always darkest before the dawn comes back. I'm just saying, whatever happens, if you're self-sufficient, if you get out of the cities, if you get some chickens and maybe a couple goats or something, you'll be okay.
If you keep your chickens safe, That's a big
Bro, I'm
deal.
telling you, it's gonna you like if it really does hit the fan and war breaks out, I'm not talking about infrastructure collapse or societal collapse. I'm talking about the US government saying we all have to pitch into the war effort, so we're taking all of the copper, we're taking all of the steel. The eggs are being shipped off to the troops, so you're not going to have eggs. You're going to be eating rice and beans if you're lucky.
Bread. They'll love this.
Yep.
The bread. I want to say
they're going to say eat the bread, eat corn. They're going to say eat the corn.
This is Victory Gardens.
And then what's going to happen is
Remember?
You're gonna be sitting in your living room, and then all of a sudden you're gonna hear and you're gonna go what? And you're gonna run out and you're gonna go, Ma, something's getting the chickens, and it's gonna be a guy in a flannel shirt with a handlebar mustache and suspenders running while Peter, Bjorn, and John is playing, and he's like, I'm just so hungry, and you're gonna be like, drop my chicken. It's gonna be, and then there's gonna be a bunch of other hipsters running around with him.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the hipsters from the city who are like, these people are crazy. I don't need to leave my lifestyle. I can stay in my 1-bedroom apartment. No chickens for me.
They're going to steal your chicken and try and eat it.
I saw a tweet from Dash Dobrovsky, who I actually want to like a lot. I don't know him, but it said...
That's a work, right? That guy's not serious.
I can't tell. He is an actor.
He's got to be an actor.
But the statement he said...
He's literally an actor.
Like a child actor.
Yeah, he's been on a bunch
Hollywood.
of TV shows. He was his first appearance, I think, was on Jay Leno.
So
his whole thing's a bit.
He might be doing a character for but his tweet was
a little over the top for me, but I appreciate his tweets. I really like his tweets.
I find it entertaining, but the tweet today was, or from yesterday, men who use guns aren't real men. What the hell is he talking about?
He's talking about Ukraine. He's basically saying that he hates Ukraine and that anyone in Ukraine is not a real man because they shouldn't have guns. They should be surrendering to Russia.
It's maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's hyperbolic.
The force of their testosterone would be able to stop the Russian army.
I just assumed he meant like you fight with your hands. Guns are.
It's because he's not a real personality. So Nuance Bro actually did a big takedown on him, showing his IMDb track record, like the movies, the TV shows he's been in, the things he's filmed. It's a bit. He's a clout chaser.
I see. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he really doesn't truly believe everything he says. It's kind of a short-sighted statement.
So does that mean Alec Baldwin isn't a real man?
Yes.
Baldwin turns out.
Let me give a special shout out again. I want to give a special shout out to Hassan and his fans, because when I did a video saying that Hassan Piker was correct about the cataract surgeries, that
MrBeast thing.
He was like, this fills me with rage that we just don't give these people these things, and I was like, I agree. It's like we're spending all this money on war and stuff.
I think he missed something though.
When I said we spent $100 billion on Ukraine, Hassan's response was to start laughing and then offer up no critique as to why what I said was wrong, and his fans all started calling me stupid, and they said before that I was right. Yeah. But as soon as I said don't support Ukraine with our money, all of a sudden I'm wrong. These people are, I call them neocons. You know, it's like neocon but communist.
Yeah. I thought you said comics. Neocomical.
Neocons. They're communists, but they want foreign intervention and war.
But you know what?
So they're basically like John Bolton and Hassan Piker probably get along really well on the
I don't think Hassan
how to solve the Ukraine crisis.
I don't think he wants war. I think he was pissed because he thinks that what you're doing is deferring to conservative agitprop, as he refers to it as, like, the blindness thing is ridiculous that we're not helping blind people. But then when you mention Ukraine, he's like, why are you talking about conservative news all of a sudden?
What conservative news?
Just Ukraine. In his mind, it's like a conservative thing.
He literally says in that clip, the military-industrial complex is the problem, and we shouldn't be giving them our money. And that's literally what I said. $100 billion going into foreign wars in countries that are not on our border.
I think it was Pakistani gender studies.
You know, there's a meme about this,
that
was
the crux.
The starter pack of I'm edgy, but it's okay to tweet these things.
And then he agreed with me and says they're doing that gender studies thing as a liberal PR. So he basically agrees with my points, but then rallies his followers to attack because it's not real commentary. Real commentary is when Hassan says, I'm filled with rage watching this MrBeast thing. And then I say, I see a lot of people criticizing Hassan, but I agree with him that we're spending $100 billion overseas in war, that we spent $10 million on gender studies in Pakistan, when a single dollar of that could have gone towards medical care in this country. He then agrees with those points because he has to, but then insults me, derides me, and then rallies his followers against me who start insulting me because it's not real commentary. Real commentary would be assessing the political position, analyzing it, and then either agreeing or disagreeing and making your statement, not just going ha 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 ha. He thinks we should be at war in Ukraine. But anyway, that's my point about Dobrovsky. I don't want to go off on.
But I do have an interesting
Hassan.
Similar take to Hassan, but I think, and it's more in line with what you're saying, that it's not just Ukraine though, because what you're dealing with, and I think what a lot of people were dealing with the response to MrBeast was cognitive dissonance. It was a classic textbook case of cognitive dissonance, because here comes a guy who just fronts the money for this surgery and is able to cure 1,000 people's blindness in seemingly overnight, in an instant.
And it costs about $6,000 per surgery.
And think about what we've been doing as a country for the last 3 years. It's been crisis after crisis after crisis, where the media, your favorite influencers, your government officials are telling you that you must care about the current thing. The current thing is the most important thing in the world, the going thing, they used to call it in the UK, that this must be dealt with, and it doesn't matter how much it costs, whether it be diversity and systemic racism, whether it be COVID, and we must defeat COVID, and we must have the vaccine mandates. It has to be this. It has to be done. And anyone against us is part of the problem. And of course, you remember Biden giving speeches about this. And now that thing is war in Eurasia. We've always been at war in Eurasia. It must be this. And suddenly, so there's that moment of clarity where it's like the Principal Skinner meme, right? Of, am I out of touch? And then immediately it comes right back that, no, it must be the children who are wrong. That's cognitive dissonance.
I want to jump to this next story. We got this one from the Wall Street Journal. Rep. Ilhan Omar ousted from Foreign Affairs Committee by GOP. And, I don't really care that they removed her. I agree with Matt Gaetz when he said removing her from her committee simply because you don't like what she said is kind of stupid. But I think he voted to oust her, right? He voted in line with the Republicans. Is that what it was?
I saw that everyone did.
Yeah, all the Republicans were in favor. And I think what he said was, this is different. This is not just removing Schiff or Swalwell from a committee. This is putting it up to a vote. And then, the vote, of course, succeeded. But here's what I want you to see. You guys ready to listen to this?
No.
Yeah.
Democrats scream no.
Oh, good.
Is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no. No. It's the opinion of.
Let's say, make it louder. Make it louder. Play it again.
Making it louder.
Keep going. Yes.
They're still going.
And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
It's so good.
Those in favor say yay. Those in favor say nay. Like, isn't she supposed to say those
No.
against say no? Not those in favor say yay. Those in favor say no.
Tim, I think you got to play it again.
Okay, let's play it.
I think you got to play it again.
Those in favor say no.
Oh, yeah, that's
Those
weird.
against say no, lady.
So wait. Basically, she tricked them.
So everyone
She got a
agreed.
unanimous, unanimous removal of Ilhan Omar.
It depends on the text of the motion.
It's the opinion of.
it's
Is
so
on
good.
adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no.
Everyone's in favor.
Have you ever
Opinion
seen
That she
like
Bugs Bunny'd them. They
Yeah.
weren't listening, and so they all yelled no.
Straight
in agreement.
into my veins.
Have you ever seen like a
there's
little
more.
kid have a meltdown? That's what I feel like.
there-
Wait, hit me with some of that, Talib. Hit me with some of that.
You got-
Talib.
here you go, here you go.
Hit me with some of that.
Gentlewoman's time has
Congresswoman Omar will
expired.
not be silenced.
The gentlewoman's time
To
has expired.
Congresswoman Omar, I am
gentlewoman's
so
time
sorry,
has
sis,
expired.
that our country is failing you today through this chamber. You belong
The
in that
gentlewoman is no
committee.
longer recognized, and the gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
They cut her mic because she's still going. They cut her mic because she's
I
still
know.
going.
You could hear yelling. She's crying.
She's in
And
hysterics.
Cori
good.
Bush behind her is crying, and it's like,
Oh, yes.
dude, they removed her from a committee. It's not the end of the world.
She still gets to be in Congress. Like,
Yeah.
there's
It's a
no-
little
I'm
loud.
not gonna lie. I've had that on a repeat in my office pretty much all day today.
Gosh. Well, I remember these are like the same kinds of people who were like, Donald Trump does not conduct himself with dignity. Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene heckling during whatever speech
Oh, right,
is
those
are
photos.
bad. Like, I'm sorry, are you not holding yourself to the same conduct that you apparently expect
Wait, but
everyone
there's
else
one more,
to?
isn't there?
I don't have the Cori Bush one pulled up.
No, the AOC.
one.
You've got you got to have the AOC. I hope
I have
that
to look for it.
that my friend Alex Stein hasn't seen this. It might put him in the hospital when he sees the AOC video today. But let me address something very quickly right here, because this is called retaliation. The
Okay,
right
here we got the
didn't
AOC one.
start this, and I'd like to
Retribution.
This is retribution. Retribution and retaliation. We are putting points on the board. And this is something where if you saw, Jordan Peterson has this whole thing now about, we need to be careful that, the left doesn't use this kind of, I'm sorry, have you seen the left lately? Have you seen what they're doing? Have you seen what they're doing to children? Guess what? We are going in and we are going to use whatever tactics necessary to correct the problem. And if there is a tactic that's already been used against people on the right, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like they tried to do it to, I don't even care. I don't even care who it is. I don't care what they said. I don't care what they did. We are going to use it back tenfold until it stops.
Do you think it'll make it? I don't know if it'll make it stop though, because it's like saying, okay, nobody can hit anybody. Then the kid hits the other kid, And you're like, and then the kid's like, I want to hit him. Well, in some situations, you're like, you know what? Yeah, hit him back then.
No.
If you got hit, you can hit him back and then no more hitting.
Until the entire system is corrected. And this is the difference between the new right and the old right. The old right will sit there and complain about, but we're how dare we use those drop boxes? We shouldn't use drop boxes at all. And the new right will be like, I want drop boxes in the back of every church in the country.
Yeah. We had Rick Santorum on, and he's like, we can't impeach Joe Biden. We don't do that. We're better. And I'm just like, then you lose,
Rick Santorum was my first boss in politics, and nothing but respect for RJS, nothing but respect for the senator, nothing but respect for what he did. And by the way, being one of the first people to say things like it takes a family to raise a child, not a village, not a socialist system. But I do think, yes, at some point you got to take the gloves off.
Yeah. If you want to keep losing, I get it. I can respect the attempt at honor and integrity. But look, man, we're just at this point where, as I was mentioning with Hassan, that segment, I did a response to him. It was like a half an hour long because Ian pulls up this video the other day where it's like Hassan calls out, or Tim Pool calls him out. I was defending him. But the point is, the reason I bring it up again, if you literally can't even agree with these people and they'll come after you or deride you or insult you, then there's no point in trying anymore, and you're not going to win anything by just giving people who are crying what they want. And in this regard, you take a look at what we have the AOC video. I'll play this one. You look at what happened when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gosar get removed. They're like, this is an injustice. Well, you'll see what happens. They literally cry. Mm-hmm. It's just like that meme where the feminist is throwing manure over the wall into the internet and says opinions, and then when people throw it back, she goes, "Help misogyny." It's like, dude, here you go. You guys ready for AOC?
Wait.
Always.
Wait, hold, no. All right, there we go.
A gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Let's go.
Thank you. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11
She's
has been the
up to it.
targeting and racism
Already hit
against
9/11.
Muslim Americans throughout the United States of
hand
America.
gestures.
And this is an extension of that legacy.
Look
Consistency,
at Cori
there
Bush
is
back
nothing
there.
consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus
here we go.
threaten
Like slam
my life,
poetry.
and
It
you
is.
all and the Republican
Who threatened
caucus
her life?
rewarded him with one of the most
Gosar.
prestigious
No.
She's
saying that
claiming
Gosar
that Gosar's anime video.
Gosar posted Attack on Titans, which showed her as a gigantic human-eating monster being slain by warriors. It was a threat on her life. It was distasteful, in my opinion. Like, I understand the humor behind it, but I'm like, I don't know if it's appropriate. You want to, put that kind of
I've
image
seen
out there?
when people took memes of remember the first Kingsman movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you remember, I'm not going to describe it because we're on YouTube. This isn't the third hour. Maybe we'll talk about then.
Right.
But you remember the church scene?
Yeah.
And they took like,
Colin Firth just like kills everybody. in
different, I'm just going to say political opponents and attach them to that. I wouldn't post something like that.
Yeah, it's like a will you rid me
That
of these
being
priests
said,
kind of
she
thing.
hung
she's
out with
calling it, "He
Gosar.
threatened my life."
She hung out with Gosar during the McCarthy vote, and you could see the pictures of her like
everyone being like,
looking
"What is this?"
It's
looking
performative. It's
very
not real.
into him while she's sitting next.
Look,
that picture, by the way, is some interesting
And
stuff
she's
going on in that
right
picture.
now. She knows she's being filmed and she's campaigning.
Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell
Oh, yeah.
me that this is about an
she's up for re-election.
Don't tell me.
Anti-Semitic
Don't tell me.
remarks. When you have a member
she's
of the
actually running for-
Republican
she's
caucus
looking at
who
running
has
for
talked
Senate.
about Jewish
Yeah.
space lasers and
Never happened.
doing
Marjorie
that.
Taylor Greene literally never said that. This
Nope.
is insane.
Never said it.
She did say in a Facebook post, could lasers have started these fires? And then she made one reference to funding from a bank. And then the media was like, but that bank was owned by Jewish people. Therefore, she's talking about Jewish people. And now AOC goes on the floor of the House and says Jewish space lasers.
an entire amount of tropes, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America.
That's why we took off two white
because
guys
I didn't get a
first.
single apology
Time has expired.
when my life was
I
threatened.
love it.
Her
I
life
love
was
the
never
spice.
threatened.
I love the
and
spice.
These people are evil.
I love the spice. I love it. No, I love her. I love her.
I'm sorry.
doing like a church preacher thing.
Yeah, right?
I
this
think
is
it's
evil.
spoken
This is what
word
evil
poetry.
is.
This is what she hits the table.
When she is performing to manipulate the public to gain power, that to me is what evil is. I mean, there's other forms of it. Don't get me wrong. Like killing people and stuff like that. But I'm saying this is malevolent.
You're saying what she's
corruption.
doing to the people who are receptive, and like we're laughing about it, we're being jovial, but you can hit the quote tweet button on Twitter right now, I'm sure, and you will find people that are absolutely lapping this up.
Yeah. And they're crying. It's like, my heart breaks for this country. Thank you, AOC.
And
thank you for speaking up.
These
for
are the
us.
same people who believed her when she implied, and you know what I'm going to bring up, she implied that she was in the Capitol on January 6th and that people were coming to kill and rape and kill her.
No. She made that story up in its entirety. AOC said in a live stream that someone was pounding on her door and she went and hid in the bathroom and then heard, "Where is she?"
That's right.
Where is she? The
That's
only
right.
problem. First, every conservative comes out and says, hey, wait a minute. She wasn't in the Capitol building. And everyone in media, Huffington Post, they came out and said, yes, but they're connected. And she was scared that they made it through the tunnels. And I had a dude from Huffington Post reach out to me and say, hey, you're wrong about your tweet. You need to take it down. AOC, those buildings are connected. And then I responded with, I talked to him. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize. So I took the tweet down and I was like, my bad, I'll issue a correction.
So you tweeted, and that's when I put the map.
I checked the timeline. And then I said, wait. And I messaged the Huffington Post guy back and said,
yes,
the times frame she mentioned in this story, no one breached the building until an hour afterwards. And he was like, no, that must be a mistake. Then he got back to me and he goes, oh, you're actually right.
Yep.
AOC lied. That whole story is a lie. What really happened was the police were evacuating the building. If AOC knew
and it was
an hour in advance that people were going to storm the building, why didn't she tell anybody? Because either she knew in advance before anyone breached the building that it was going to happen, or she's fabricating a story.
Was this before okay, so when you look at the timeline, and of course, shout out to Revolver News and Darren Beatty on this, we know that the timing of when Ray Epps first hit those barricades was almost precisely coincidental, right? Precisely coincided with when the pipe bombs were reported outside of the DNC and the RNC, almost like someone was trying to divert resources away from that initial. And by the way, when I say the initial barricades, these are hundreds of feet away from the steps of the Capitol itself. This is what you would consider part of the lawn, or the National Mall. But so at that point, had this knock on the door happened yet? Did she know about the pipe bombs? Or did this even precede that?
I don't know if she knew. I don't know what she knew. But the reason the cop knocked on her door was that they were evacuating because of the pipe bombs. And that was a full hour before the Capitol was actually breached. So AOC had no reason to believe. Now, what she's doing is, in my opinion, using hindsight. Now that she knows it happened, she's using that image in people's minds to say, how scared was I when they were coming in the building?
Right.
But think about at the time, not a single person knew the Capitol would be breached. So her story makes no sense. It's a fabrication. Mm-hmm. She is a liar. She is malevolent. She is an evil person.
Sometimes victims of trauma misremember, and they call it a lie.
It wasn't even 24 hours later she told this story.
Yeah, but she
misremember. It was like a few hours later. She's like, here's what happened.
But like when a victim in the park gets jumped by a dude and she's telling the story to the cops, she's like, yeah, he was wearing a black jacket with a, they're like, do you know what color his hat was?
What time?
Red,
what time were you
red.
jumped? I think it was 8 p.m.
And it turns out it was 10 o'clock.
It wasn't 10 o'clock. Was the sun out? The sun was out. Why was the sun out at 10 p.m.? I made the story. Yeah, that's why.
There are examples of victims talking
spare me.
and misremembering.
I'm not
Well, this is why you can't take witness testimony as fact.
Well, okay. I feel
AOC goes on her Instagram and lies like she always does. Stop defending her.
But whether or not she was being malicious,
I don't think this is that situation.
Yeah.
I don't think this is that situation at all.
I feel like yours is closer to like if someone got jumped and the first thing they did was go to the media instead of the cops,
This is why victims don't serve on juries, by the way.
You cannot claim that AOC, who was evacuated specifically because of a bomb threat, and that's what they were told, then accidentally conflated that she thought before the breaching of the Capitol that the Capitol had been breached. They went through the tunnels, made their way to her office, and then tried breaking into her room. That's insane.
Well, they say I think the Capitol grounds had been breached if bombs had been placed on the Capitol grounds.
But that's what I'm talking about, is when they are using the most expansive definition you could think of in terms of Capitol grounds. And these are normally public areas. This is why, and I was there on January 6th covering it for OAN, that this is why a lot of those people who are walking around on the grass didn't think they were doing anything wrong, because that's on any other day you're just allowed to walk around there.
Right.
This was not the steps. This wasn't the doors. This wasn't anything like that. And so where Ray Epps and those guys, who were maskless, by the way, cutting down barricades while President Trump was still talking. Those guys never identified, never charged, and they set up the entire thing.
And many of the people who walked onto the grounds into the building were behind where the barricades were breached. So imagine you're a bumbling dotard with a bunch of people walking around confused. There's no barricades. It's a straight path up to a door, and the police open the door and say, "Don't agree with it, but I respect it." And you're like, I wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
That was on one side of the building. On the other side, you had people fighting. Don't get me wrong; those people should be locked up.
I remember,
but a lot of these people didn't even know that there were barricades in the first place.
I remember standing on top of 101 Constitution Ave, and I said that exact same thing as it was happening. I said the people, because on Constitution Avenue, you're all the way back. You have no clue what's going on at the front, so you're just walking up, and you're just following the crowd at that point. And 101 Constitution, believe it or not, of course, same address where the Penn Biden Center is, where they found the classified documents. So I'm standing on the roof of that saying, these people are going to walk in and they're going to get blamed for this, and they're going to have no clue what transpired before, because already cell phone service was down, signal was down. You had no clue. You had no way to be able to find out what had happened. And so even when they made all these arguments about Trump's tweets, et cetera, how would you know, right? There was no way to get access to Twitter or anything like that.
We talked to, they call him Podium Guy, but it was a lectern, right? Mm-hmm. And he said that he had no idea. Like his phone's basically dead and off, and he's walking around confused, like, I don't know what's going on. And then he leaves, and all of a sudden he's like all over the news, and they're posting these pictures of him.
Yeah.
He had no idea what was happening. And they tried to make it seem like he was stealing it when he said he moved it like 20 feet, put it down, and then did like yelled something and then walked away.
So like somebody else had moved it and he was moving it back.
No. He saw it under the stairs or something, and then picked it up and put it in the middle of the room, and then like said like, haha, like he was giving a speech, and then just walked away.
Wow. Oh,
they made it seem like he was stealing it from somewhere. Yeah.
Wow. I pulled up a tweet from Ilhan Omar from earlier today, I guess this was from about noon today, and it says, I'll read it for you. It says, representation matters. We didn't come to Congress to be silent. We came to Congress to be a voice for families who are displaced in refugee camps and those seeking justice around the world.
So where were you when MTG was stripped of all her committees?
Good question.
Show me one of these people who are so upset right now, who are screaming, who are crying, who are losing their minds. Did they defend MTG? It's a simple question.
We're talking about seeking justice. Right?
Read that again.
Well, she was duly elected the same way as she was.
From the top, representation matters. We didn't come to Congress to be silent. We came to Congress to be a voice for families who are displaced in refugee camps and those seeking justice around the world. Because that's what this child survivor of war would have wanted.
No, she came to Congress to represent her Minnesota district.
That's my point. First of all, when she says we didn't come to Congress, who's we? It's Ilhan. Who's we didn't come to Congress? Who are you talking about? You and a group of co-conspirators? Like Ilhan, it's you.
Maybe she's talking about her brother.
Maybe. And also,
you mean her husband?
Her husband?
Tim, you make a good point, Tim, that Ilhan, you didn't go to Congress to be a voice for refugees around the world. You went there to represent the people of Minnesota.
In that one small part of Minnesota.
But not really. I mean, she's telling you what she came to Congress for, right?
I think she's being honest. I think she's actually being honest
around
there,
the world. I mean, I think she is being honest, and that she's taken on a greater.
Everyone in her district should now be like, oh, interesting. That's who you identify as your constituents.
What you've just identified, though, is a trend line that connects the Chinese spy story, the spy balloon story, to this, where we have to understand that the United States government, or the GAE, or whatever you want to call it, the globalist American empire, is run throughout with foreign interests. That we've got foreign interests controlling so much of our government. We've got so much influence from wealthy foreign governments, whether it be Iran, whether it be China, whether it be Qatar, whether it be Saudi Arabia, et cetera, that are pushing their interests through these members of Congress, because you're allowed to raise money from anywhere in the country, right? You don't just have to raise money from your own district. So you're representing not only the people who vote for you, but the people who fund your campaign.
Do like Saudi princes fund PACs that fund that fund politicians?
Probably.
What do you think?
My guess is yes. Legally, a Saudi prince is not legally allowed to give $100 million to a candidate. I would imagine.
This is what I always say
no American
to-
citizen could do that.
Yeah.
Or even $1 million bucks.
What I always say to the campaign finance reform, like the people who spurg out on that, and you find a lot of people on the left really spurg out. They say, "Oh, we need to have like this law and that law," and the money's going to get there. The money's going to get there either way, right? The money's always going to find a way to get into these areas, and so this is a fundamental flaw with the system. That if you've got more money. Not always, but if you're looking at a race like Congress, where how many people can name their congressman or member of Congress, that you're going to say, well, I've seen that guy's name a bunch, I guess I'll vote for him, or hey, this guy seems crazy, because you've got a well-funded smear campaign against them, and say, oh, well, I can't vote for that guy because that's the Jewish space lasers lady. I couldn't vote for her, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told me that she's the Jewish space laser person. Now, fortunately, Marjorie Taylor Greene's in a district where I don't think they're going to be listening to AOC very much, but Lauren Boebert isn't. And a well-funded opponent could come in against Lauren Boebert very easily. You saw this almost happen, right? Where I don't think people realized how close she came, something like 500 votes.
Yeah, extremely
And so
close.
this is always going to be a problem with the American model of government.
Because of the House of Representatives can be bought off or bribed by corporate people that want to give their laws, so the representatives pass their laws into the Senate. If there were no representatives, if this was all like direct representation where you'd have to bribe 700,000 of us if you want our district to vote a certain way. Not going to happen. Not likely. Not as likely as one person. They would still pay lawyers to pass laws into the Senate. So it's either like the richest people are always going to dominate politics, or the most intelligent and able to write laws could possibly. I could see like a well-educated populace could become more valuable than the monetary system. But what happens is the people that are rich will buy the intelligent people off, the lawyers and stuff, and they'll find the smartest lawyers to write the best laws for them. And then it becomes like a bidding war. I kind of agree with you. I don't see a way out.
There's a reason that when we talk about Davos, so Davos just ended, and this is sort of the meeting of the globalist American empire where they sit and sort of cackle around about what they're going to be doing. And there's an interesting take on that, because I think people realize that it's tough to put a specific word to it, but we understand that when you see the AOC performative art and the theater from Rashida Tlaib, we realize that these aren't the actual people that are making the decisions. These aren't the people that are actually ruling over us. These aren't the people that are setting the agenda. And you're seeing that more and more even in the Biden administration, as they're removing longtime allies and confidants and advisors like Ron Klain, and then getting in people like Jeff Zients, who's a Bain Capital uniparty guy, the same way that he's sort of like, the Democrat side of Bain, the way that Romney was the Republican side of Bain, but they're really the same company, right? It's actually a perfect example for us to understand that this is how the uniparty works. So they're able to get their people in. And even the Biden administration itself, nobody sits there and talks about the incredible Biden campaign and the mastery of the, this name. Who was Biden's campaign manager?
John Podesta. I have no idea.
Right, we don't even know.
No idea.
All of so
whoever Hillary's was, I guess.
Obama's campaign managers went on to have some of the most successful media careers. They run some of the most successful podcasts on the left right now. With the Biden campaign, who did they launch? There's nothing. There's absolutely, because people understand that was predominantly the power structure deciding to pluck him up and bring him in as president. And we call this the globalist American empire.
They said, stay alive, Joe Biden. All we need is your corporeal form.
That's right.
That's exactly right. That was a news article. What was it? The Atlantic that wrote there, something like that?
Yeah.
Stay alive, Joe Biden. Let me see if I can find this.
But I think what we're seeing now, though, and this is why, to go back to 101 Constitution, I'm
Atlantic. There you go.
The Atlantic. Same thing, right. And what date did that come out?
This is
March
March 24th, 2020. Democrats.
So he wasn't even the
Democrats
the
need
nominee.
little from the front runner beyond his corporeal presence.
It's crazy.
They were
to say
right.
that.
And that's
They're
pretty much all we
outright
have.
saying you will not have a president. You will have a figurehead in an old retiree.
A vessel.
Yep.
And that's
We need someone to sit in the chair, but he's not going to really do it.
But I think what we're seeing right now with the classified documents coming out, with Hunter Biden very stupidly admitting that the laptop was his.
That was amazing.
Threatening to file lawsuits against those of us that were spreading it in 20. Which please do, by the way, please sue me, Hunter Biden. I'd be more than happy to get discovery in a lawsuit with Hunter Biden. So please, Hunter Biden, have your lawyers contact my lawyers. Sue me right now.
I figured out Biden's campaign manager was Greg Schultz.
Who's that?
What's he up to now?
You see what I mean? That's exactly my point. It's kind of the same way that when we were talking about the current thing earlier, that if you weren't old enough to remember the sort of post 9/11 era, we were, suddenly we became experts in the Middle East, and you had to know who's the best prime minister for Afghanistan. Is it Ashraf Ghani, or is it Karzai? Who should be the next leader of Iraq? And we must topple Saddam Hussein because Saddam Hussein is the greatest threat to world peace right now. The same way you've got people talking about toppling Iran tomorrow. But here we are, a couple, 2 decades later, and nobody talks about Iraq anymore. We know the Taliban retook Afghanistan. Nobody even mentions them because you're not told to mention them.
I thought that the other day. I was like, all these people that are like, hey, we want Russians out of Ukraine. It is not right for a country to invade a smaller foreign country.
Yeah.
Where were they when they were talking about pulling our troops out of Iraq? Like when the Americans, we're still invading Iraq.
Iraq, Libya. We still have troops in Syria right now.
So get them out. Get them out. Speak up about it.
That's why I hate to bring it up again. But when Hassan did his response to me and he's like, the military-industrial complex is bad, but we should be in Ukraine. It's like, what do you think that is? What do you think all of this has always been? But that's an excellent point, Ian, that all these people are like, Russia, what did Kamala Harris say? Russia is a big country. And they invaded a little country, and that's why it's bad. It's like, oh, well, the United States is a big country, and we invaded a couple little countries. Was that bad?
I will actually give Kamala Harris credit on that for a little bit, because I try to find things that I like about the other side, and it makes it harder that way, right? You have to be easy to just rip on them. But she actually does have a point that you don't really hear that when people are talking about the strategic military calculus of, well, we're going to send more tanks. Well, okay, but how many tanks? Well, like 15. Okay, well, how many tanks does Russia have? They have 1,200. Right. So what are your 15? What are 15? And Zelensky says this all the time. He said it on an interview with Trey Yingst at Fox News today, that he said, well, you're going to send 15 tanks. They have thousands of tanks. What difference is this really going to make to us? Are you going to send F-16s? But then if you send F-16s, who's going to fly them? How are you going to train someone? What are the logistics for that? What is the maintenance for that? And then keep in mind, they say, okay, well, we'll build a maintenance facility. Well, yeah, well, guess what the next cruise missile is going to fly into, right? You don't have to take out all the tanks, just take out the maintenance facility. We've been talking about the collapse of complex systems. Well, when you're in wartime, you just amplify that by about 100. Imagine, you can't find the right lug nut because, oh, wait, American tanks use the conventional system, but European tanks use the metric system, right? So where are you going to find the right pieces for a Leopard that fit in Abrams, et cetera, et cetera? All of these issues that come into play.
I want to pull up the Hunter Biden story.
Right,
this is an amazing story right here. CNN Politics. Hunter Biden calls for criminal probe and aggressive new legal strategy. This is my favorite thing here, right? They say the allegations made in letters to the Delaware Attorney General, the Justice Department's National Security Division, and the IRS marked the first time President Joe Biden's son and his legal team have publicly acknowledged that it was his personal data purported to be found on a laptop left at a Delaware repair shop. Let me just come out and say, Hunter Biden, thinking he's going on the legal offensive, says he wants a criminal probe into the laptop, and even CNN was like, wow, he admitted it was his. Now, here's the best part. They came out, I don't know if I actually have it. Here we go. Yeah, from Jackie Heinrich. Attorney for Hunter Biden tells me letters requesting investigation into the laptop repair store owner, Julian, and others are not acknowledgement the laptop is in fact Hunter's, which makes no sense. Because if it's not his, then he's not the victim. If it's not his, it's not the victim. So then he's got.
By the way, and he's not a victim anyway because it's salvage law.
Well, I guess the argument he's trying to make is, and they've long made this, is that maybe the laptop was someone hacked his data, put it on a laptop, and then dropped it off there to trick everyone. It's a conspiracy.
At this point, that laptop, that hard drive that we were going through in October of 2020 when Steve Bannon handed me and Raheem a copy of that thing and said, "Have at it, boys," that not a single person has been able to come through and find anything that was changed, that was altered, that was added, that was edited, not once. And by the way, this isn't just like a copy of files, it's an actual clone of his laptop from that period of time.
Well, it was his actual laptop.
Yeah.
And then copies of the hard drive were made.
That's right. So, I mean, you actually need a Mac OS from that time frame in order to even boot the thing.
Yeah.
That's how much of a clone it is.
Did he have any games on that laptop? Or if you're not allowed to answer, then you don't have to answer.
That's not something
It's
that
a
I
Mac,
was
and
necessarily
Macs are probably
looking
not.
for. But
You're not trying to get a
Macs are
picture
not
of
good
what
with
he's
that
into,
stuff.
what he doesn't.
I
Biden
saw
is a
plenty of
person.
pictures. I saw
Jeez.
more
Well,
than
the
I ever
crazy
wanted
thing
to.
is that there's so much information still on the laptop that's not been released, and it's because people don't know what to look for. So when a story comes out, like the classified documents,
Right.
then people go, let's search for this information and see if we can find anything. Oh, hey, wow, there's emails. So
Well, it's also like you get more information, and then because there's a lot of it, because it's you're getting chains of emails, but you don't always get the start, the end, etc. Or you see names, and some of these people aren't necessarily mentioned in press, so you're not sure exactly who it is, and you have the ability to take lead on it. But again, it's just someone's personal laptop, so there's thousands and thousands of emails on it. So what happens is exactly what you just said, that something happens in the real world, and then it gives you new context to go back and look
search.
at the exact same thing that you had seen a million times before, but then realize what it
there's
is.
a ton of emails on the laptop. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're seeing static, like on the TV. But if someone points out, hey, Hunter Biden lived at this house and there were classified documents here. Someone says, okay, let me search the database and see if these keywords come up. Whoa, they did. You don't even know what to look for until you know what to look for. You know what I mean?
Precisely.
So they're not calling for a lawsuit though. He wants a criminal probe. So are they gonna send the DOJ after you, Jack?
Greater men than you have tried.
What's the probe all? What's a
Biden.
criminal probe all about? What would that entail, and what's the purpose?
I don't know. Like I guess they're arguing maybe like Computer Fraud and Abuse Act or something.
They're seeing if there's enough there
Wiretapping?
to charge them with a criminal.
Which, by the way, and I'm just gonna say it publicly, that whenever we booted this thing up, there was something I said from day one. I said, do not connect this thing to the internet. Don't connect it, not 1 second, because I don't even know. But if his Apple ID is associated with that thing, then if you connect this to the internet, which I've never done, then if it starts syncing, let's say his Apple ID hasn't changed, it starts syncing, now you're in violation, because now you're downloading new information that was not left with Johnny McIsaac at that store. And by the way, chatted with lawyers, et cetera, about all of this extensively. And that was sort of the point, was that anything that was left at the store was left.
Yo,
period.
there's so many copies of this laptop floating around now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I hear from like random people. They're like, oh yeah, our news team's doing it. And I'm like, wow. Must like to be Hunter. You know,
Look,
don't get cracked out and leave your laptop.
Yeah, don't smoke crack and leave your laptop lying around. Which I love that story. That if you remember early on, there were a bunch of journalists saying, "Well, that story of Bannon and Rudy Giuliani's never made any sense." I'm like, you never heard of a crackhead losing something?
They're very responsible. You don't understand. They get a bad rap.
Losing their laptop. I mean,
Not
that's
just
the most
that.
obvious story I could think of.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's also rich. He didn't care about the laptop, so when it broke, he probably just was like, I'm not going to go and pick it up. I don't know. I got other things to do. Forgets about it, and then someone's like, "You ever go get your laptop back?" I don't know. Whatever.
I'll sync the data on my new computer.
One of the big angles that I've always, he could have just forgotten too. Where's my laptop? And thought he lost it. Looking around for his laptop the next day. What the heck did I do with that thing? And then just goes and buys a new one because he thinks he lost it. Something that I do want to bring up, though, because we've been talking about the potential for foreign influence, we've been talking about how our country is owned. All of the information that we have on that laptop, all of the data, all of the voicemails, the talks of the Chinese Communist Party, the deals with Burisma, the Ukrainian energy firm, who just had their former owner, the money guy behind it, the oligarch Igor Kolomoisky, was raided this week by the government of Ukraine. So they're cleaning up loose ends over there. That guy had been a huge backer of Zelensky, by the way, as well, in his TV show and his campaign. He was just raided. So, GAE is tying up loose ends. But when I think of this and I compare it to sort of like a dossier that we would see in the IC, that this isn't a dossier, or if it is a dossier, this is the dossier that Hunter Biden had on himself, right? This isn't something that an intelligence organization would put together. So imagine what Eastern European intelligence services have on Hunter Biden from what he was doing there that even he didn't save. Imagine what the Chinese Communist Party and the Ministry of State and Security Second Bureau has on this guy, because this is the stuff that he wasn't filming himself, saving himself, recording himself. What was the stuff that was too hot for Hunter Biden to even put out there, right? So that's what they have on him. And I think at this point what we're really seeing, and it's it's an interesting story to get into, but it's the power of the Biden family is over. They're pretty much dying. They're spent, and they're going to take old man Biden, old man Joe, and they're going to hold him by the liver spotted hand. They're going to give him a glass of warm milk and maybe some mashed peas and Brussels sprouts, and they're going to walk him out the front door. And then Gavin,
Brussels sprouts are a little too hard for old,
Well, steamed Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
If you steam them. My mom used to steam them. They're very
Brussels
soft.
sprouts are good.
I actually like them.
I eat them raw off the
grilled.
stem.
I like them
So
grilled.
good.
Then
Grilled.
they're going to walk him
Yeah.
out of the White House. He's done. They'll send him off to Rehoboth. They'll send him off to Wilmington, whatever. Rehoboth's nice. And they are going to prepare. And then Kamala, just forget about that. That's not even worth talking about. And they're going to pave the way for Mr. Hair Gel Hitler himself, Gavin Newsom.
Hair gel Hitler.
Hair Gel Hitler.
How would you rate him on a scale of 1 to 100, just quality wise?
And what 100 is good or
And
bad?
Yeah, 100's the best.
Who's excited about him?
One?
Like the best
Not
for
me.
the
Really? You
facts,
think he's the
best for
worst?
raw?
Well, I think
Newsom or what?
Gavin
the
Newsom.
system. I think the regime, the GAE, wants new fresh blood. And so, what's interesting though is for Gavin Newsom is that his biggest problem is going to be getting through the Democrat Southern primaries, because he doesn't have any. Put it this way, he doesn't have any intersectional Pokemon points. He's a straight white male who's married to a straight white female, and they have white children. So there's no intersectional Pokemon points.
So
there
he
for them.
is Hitler, basically.
Right.
then.
So obviously Hitler. So Hair Gel Hitler, on the other hand, he's got to think of something to appeal to those voters in the Democrat primaries in Georgia and South Carolina. And what's California talking about right now? What's the California Council that he's just instituted? Reparations.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So he's going to campaign, and he's going to use this as a national platform to say, I was the first state in the nation to provide. There's already some cities in like San Francisco and others.
That's bribery.
Yes, it is.
What?
He's going to
No,
say,
it's-
campaign on
it's
getting people money?
justice. It's justice.
It's
He's supposed to do
justice.
this. I mean, I would think
sorry
it
to
also
interrupt you.
benefit him.
this is going to be his national platform.
Right, and it'll benefit him that so many people fled California. They didn't leave their favoritism for him behind. They just moved to southern states.
I think we should talk about the historical racism of the Japanese internment camps,
Right.
and how that affected all people from the Asian diaspora and their relatives, and how they're deserving of reparations too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right. Well, see, so here's
I would like a
this
check
is-
for $100,000.
This is the take on reparations that, and it's not even to get into the question, but if you have the U.S. government handing out $25,000 checks to one group of people and nobody else, you're going to tear this country apart at the seams. You're going to absolutely tear this country apart.
And this is what I talk about, the problem with this leftist, racist, psychotic ideology, that you have a neighborhood on the south side of Chicago that is predominantly black, but it's only like 90%. And then you have Latinos and white people, and it's lower income. And then the government comes in and gives out checks to only the black people.
Yep.
Like that's going to cause a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's going to cause crazy, the gangs are going to go off for one, but people are going to get pissed off.
Well, and then the first thing the gangs are going to do is go around to everyone who got that check
Right.
and go start collecting checks.
That's right.
I mean, you're gonna see, and look,
Taxes are due.
I lived through, and by the way, I appreciate the shout out the other day on when I'd written that story about my hometown.
Oh yeah,
and
man,
losing my.
That's right. I did a whole thing about it.
We had a great town, and the house I was born in was something like 84 years old. By the time I was there, it was the house my father grew up in, and that was what you did. And everybody knew everybody. The kids I played with were the children of the kids that my dad played with when he was a kid, and on the same block, on the same town. This is about 8 miles out of Philadelphia, just a regular, normal Northeast, kind of quasi-industrial town. And that picture that's on the article is my house. That from when we left it, or kind of a little bit before we left, to where it is today, and it's It's bad.
What
He's a
happened?
Pizza Hut nationalism, man.
What happened to the hometown?
crime. Just it's all crime. It's all crime. It became a sanctuary city for Mexican IDs when that was a big thing. In like 2002, the hospital shut down. The hospital I was born in was destroyed and razed to the ground now because the company that bought it realized that they'd never make any money there, so they shut down the hospital. The homicide rate has gone up like crazy. Rapes, violent crime, et cetera, et cetera. It's just spiraled into this seedy town. That's you can go back and you have I have these great memories of growing up there. But then even, my brother and I were sort of chatting about it after I wrote this thing. That this is Norristown, Pennsylvania. That if we remember, right? We remember the dogfights that were going on in the alley when we were trying to learn how to ride bikes, and the drug dealers getting arrested every week, but then they'd be back every week, and nothing ever seemed to happen. The cops were there all the time. My mom used to let us walk to the library, which was a couple of blocks down, but then homeless people kept stabbing each other there. Wow! So we weren't allowed to do that anymore. And I remember my brother told me a story. I wasn't there, but he said he remembers looking out the window one day, and they were just looking across the street, and these two guys were just beating each other up, like right there on the street in like the middle of the day kind of stuff. And this was going on and on. You couldn't have a bike, or your bike just kept getting stolen. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, got us out. And the house is beautiful. House is absolutely gorgeous, 3 stories. My mom said that if we could have taken it with us, we would have, because it was so nice. It's a row home. But that story isn't unique to me, and I'm not special for having lived it. But you have this happen to communities all across the entire country, and I think we misuse the word community. We say like we talk about it at like a racial group or an ethnic group or a gender group now, right? Trans community, but a real community is people that have known each other, that have bonds of familiarity that go back generations.
They used to go to church together.
Yeah.
Somebody super chatted asking if I knew that they paid reparations to Japanese internment camp families. I knew that, absolutely. That's why I said Asian diaspora.
He was making a point.
My point is that when it comes to the reparations in places like California, how are you going to go through and make sure every single person is a descendant of someone who was enslaved? And then are you really going to follow through? Because that means there will be many white people who will trace lineage back to, a great grandmother or father who was black, and then are they entitled to, to this? So
my grandmother has high cheekbones, so if the natives are involved,
well, who's that famous actor? What's his name?
Mel Brooks.
What?
I just named the
We're
first
just
name.
No, the guy from Prison Break.
we were just watching.
You know what I'm talking about?
the other day.
The guy from Prison Break. Look it
check
up.
it
He's
out.
also Captain Cold in the Flash show. I forgot his name, but I think he's like 1/8 black, but he just looks like a white guy.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to get?
Wentworth Miller?
There you go.
Hey.
Yeah, he does good work. I like the stuff he's in. He's Captain Cold. I dig that stuff. I like DC.
Or does he only get 1/8?
No, but like
No, does he get 1/8 of the check?
no, I get it. But like, what's going to happen when like there's a line full of people walking up to get their checks, and there's a bunch of white people that are getting the checks, and they're like, wait, what's going on? It's like, well. Then there's going to be also a bunch of black people who are like Nigerian immigrants
you're
or
never gonna
Haitians.
solve
Yeah.
this problem.
Exactly.
I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying. It doesn't
San
work.
Francisco has this reparations committee.
Oh,
and
you
they
mean like
were-
Kamala Harris and Barack Obama?
Exactly.
Hey, they should get a check, man. They were affected. But San Francisco has the reparations committee, and they put forth this idea like you'll give it's $5 million for each black resident of San Francisco, and you have to have either prove that you're connected to you're the descendant of a slave, or that you emigrated to San Francisco during a certain time period, and then also that
California was never a slave state.
Yeah, right.
California was a free state
That's right.
the whole time. Admitted as a free state.
Except for the Chinese.
Well, yeah, right.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying about Asian diaspora. And the reason I say that is because people couldn't tell the difference back then. My family was oppressed by the white supremacy.
Yep.
Patriarchy.
Systematic.
So I deserve they got to give me money.
Yeah.
Where's my money?
Give me that.
I agree that I don't think it's possible to solve technically, and I also don't think that throwing money at people is the way to help them necessarily. I mean, a little bit. If you have zero, you give them 1,000. Having 1,000 is a lot different than having zero. It's a big difference from going to 1,000 to 2,000. Like once you get out of zero, that's something. But on top of that, like, what are we repairing?
But Ian,
tell me, what are we
you're
repairing?
assuming that the people pushing this stuff actually care about solving a problem.
I think they're trying to bribe constituents.
That's exactly
The
right.
San Francisco program would cost $50 billion. Like, that's not a solution.
I'm okay with
I
the
like
people
to
of San
say that
Francisco having to pay that. by
they
the way. I
say
have no
if you
issue with
teach
that
a man to
whatsoever.
fish, you feed him for a day. Or, I'm sorry, if you give a man to fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for the rest of your life. And then people also say you got to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Picking yourself up by your bootstraps requires you have boots.
Yes.
And teaching someone to fish, if they're really going to feed themselves for the rest of their lives, they need a fishing pole. So there's
somewhere to cook?
I don't know about cooking. You eat it
but
raw,
they need
I
a
guess.
fishing pole. They need a fishing
But
pole.
right, you can't be like, here's how you fish. Good luck finding a fishing pole, because they're going to be like, yo, I can't fish unless I have one of those things. You can spearfish, I guess. Make one out of a stick. And then picking yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to have boots to do that. So my attitude is kind of like, can we provide the means for self-sufficiency, but then require self-sufficiency? Like, we're not going to feed you tomorrow. We're going to tell you how you do it, and then it's up to you. Like, we're gonna give you the tools you need to do it.
It seems like the only sustainable way. If I was playing a game and that was one of my options, that would be the only feasible way forward, would be to pray that people would figure out how to sustain themselves if you give them a little bit once. That's the only way.
But even,
like-
I mean, this was the same argument that was made for the general amnesty in 1986 when Reagan went for it. That we're going to deal with this once a little bit, and then it'll go away. That we're just going to give a little bit of amnesty, and then we'll never have an illegal immigration problem again. That was Ronald Reagan. That was 1986.
Yeah,
California has never been red again.
And he also is the gun control guy and no fault divorce guy. So anyway, but let's do a hard segue and jump to this story, because we got to do it. This is from the Daily Mail. Man, we really do like them, don't we? 2 women who denied being trafficked by Andrew Tate and his brother and insist they worked for him willingly are victims and have been brainwashed, Romanian judge rules. So I guess it's believe all women unless those women go against the narrative of the men you're trying to imprison.
I'm actually struggling to follow the grammar of this headline.
2 women came out and said, yo, it's not true. We're not victims. And the judge went,
We were here-
nah, you're brainwashed.
We were not coerced. We were here happily. And he's like, no, you don't understand. You were coerced. You were being, I don't know.
Okay, now this is a matrix attack. I'm sorry. At this point,
Yeah, for real.
Because, and by
Like-
the way, there.
are they people are like, is it a matrix attack against Andrew Tate, or did he really do these things? And I'm like, man, honestly, I don't know. Now that a judge was like, these 2 witnesses who support Andrew Tate, yeah, they're actually victims, and we're throwing out their statements.
Here's my confusion: is have the Tate brothers been charged?
No.
So what is the ruling? What does the ruling pertain to?
This is why I'm like, at this point, it's a matrix attack.
Because I'm all, by the way, and I've said this for everybody. I've said this for Epstein. I've said this for, but I don't know if you guys saw that story, the ABC producer, the guy who they thought was missing.
Oh, yeah.
And then it turned out that he was apparently like messaging kids on Snapchat, asking for porn, all sorts of crazy stuff. That, show me the evidence.
Right.
Show me the evidence and let's have a fair trial. When it was Kyle Rittenhouse, I said, show me the evidence. When it was Alec Baldwin, I said, show me the evidence.
And he had a live bullet in his gun. He had live ammo in his gun belt.
Of course he had live ammo in his gun belt. The whole thing was live. And of course he was using the hammer. And of course he was playing around with the trigger.
I think he murdered her. I think he put the bullet in it.
So did you actually read and I know we're jumping stories, but did you actually read the probable cause summary?
No.
So from my reading of it, it didn't seem as though the investigation turned up actual footage of the shooting. It said in their investigation, they were able to uncover evidence of filming immediately prior to the shooting.
With his finger on the trigger.
And he's fiddling with the hammer, which of course decreases the pressure that it would require for a long pull trigger, et cetera, et cetera. But it didn't say that they had actual footage of, because if they had, they would just say it.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think that they've actually turned up footage of the shooting.
I just think, just to wrap that one up and go back to the Andrew Tate stuff real quick, it's like he shot a woman, pulled out a gun, pulled the hammer back, pulled the trigger, and everyone's like, oh, it was an accident. Where'd the live bullet come from? He had them on his belt. Like, Alec Baldwin was in possession of a gun, possession of live ammunition, pointed at a woman he was having arguments with, and shot her. Like, okay.
A staffer.
A staffer. Okay, anyway, the Andrew Tate thing.
Which, by the way, but Tim, what you're doing right now is you're analyzing the evidence because the evidence has been presented to us.
Yes.
And so now you can conclude a legal analysis based on the severity, the weight, the credibility of that evidence. What we have here, we have no charges. We have some statements. And apparently the judge is telling the people who made the statements that they're not allowed to make those statements.
These are witnesses supporting the Tate brothers being told they did not recognize that they were being enslaved. So when this happened, and the question was, people were like, is the machine coming after him, or did he do this? And a lot of people were like, well, the things he said. I'm like, at this point, when you get witnesses who are like, we're here to speak in support of this man, and the judge goes, nah, you're brainwashed, get out. All right,
let's
that's it.
read that. A clinical psychologist did an assessment, and then it was
described as extrajudicial
evidence.
But judges of the Bucharest Court of Appeal did take the report into consideration over yesterday's decision. This is crazy, dude.
So they found some clinical psychologists to
They've
write
not
an
been
assessment.
charged with any crimes.
Yeah, no crimes.
And
No crimes.
because
Still
of that
being held.
assessment, which by the way may also mean that if they're going to take this rule, so let's say they are charged, right? Let's say they are charged and they go to court, et cetera, et cetera. Does that mean that these two women can now not appear as witnesses because they've already been ruled against?
I don't know. I don't know
That this would be
works.
this would be excluded from them. So it looks like they were appealing the actual because in Romania they have this thing where you can be held while you're under investigation as opposed to before you've been charged, and then I think it was 30 days and they extended another 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of
It's like 120 now.
Right. So point being is they're trying to fight that initial detention.
I think they lost that ruling already.
And well, I think that's the ruling that they're talking about here.
Yeah.
So they did away with it. My question is though, does that create a pretext? Does that create a situation where if they want to come in and appear as witnesses to say, excuse me, we're not victims, we're witnesses, that they're already going to say no?
Probably. That's what it seems like. That's literally what they're doing.
They're saying that because the women were lover boy trafficked, like they thought they were in love or potentially going to marry these guys, that they can't understand that they are actually being recruited.
Women have no agency, I guess. They
Don't I know it?
Yeah, they can't make decisions for themselves, apparently.
So what you're saying is repeal the 19th Amendment?
I didn't go that far.
No, I mean, I was just saying. I mean, isn't that the well? So
in Romania, perhaps, can women vote in Romania?
The underlying subtext of this
Yeah.
is exactly what you just said, though, because in this clinical psychologist, and again, we're responding to what the court has ruled. We are not saying these things, but the logical conclusion of what you're saying is that clearly that women have no agency because men lie to them, and so women are not responsible for their actions. And if women are not responsible for their actions and their decisions, then why should we put women in a position where they're making the most important decisions, life and death, war and peace, trade, that we should take this away from them because these evil men with, by the way, Ian, of course, with these financial campaigns, these well-funded campaigns that are used against these poor women, that they're just being victimized over and over and over, and that's why we should take this pressure, this burden off.
Take a look at this famous meme image.
I love this one.
It's a poster. It says, Jake was drunk, Josie was drunk, Jake and Josie hooked up. Josie could not consent. The next day, Jake was charged with rape.
Yep.
A woman who is intoxicated cannot give her legal consent for sex, so proceeding under these circumstances is a crime. It only takes a simple day to ruin your life. Think about it, be responsible.
I can't read the bottom.
The woman has no agency and is not responsible for raping
Does
Jake.
it say who made it?
You can't really see. Something university.
Yeah, some university.
Yeah.
Always.
I'm really concerned about this consent conversation because I understand if someone is being trafficked in some way or like put through some hell and they are brainwashed into thinking that everything's fine, and then they come out and they tell everyone, hey, everything's totally fine, and you're like, okay, I can see that situation. What do they call that? Stockholm syndrome, where the victim actually thinks that the captor is a good guy. I get that. But at the same time, if someone consents to something, no matter what, if you sign a contract under duress, the contract it's not a real contract. So I understand that when you
Prove
consent.
duress.
But
exactly.
Show
And
me
you can't
the- show
retcon
me
what
the
happened a
criminal
decade
behavior.
ago. If I start coming out and being like, all the movies I made when I was back in Hollywood, I was being trafficked. So
this
take
is
them all down.
This is different. Like, these women are trying to say we are not under duress. Like, how do you prove that you're not under duress if the court says you are, right?
Like if you were accused of a crime and then you bring two witnesses who say, we've worked with them, they're good guys, we love and respect them, and the judge goes, you're brainwashed, dismissed, you're going to stay in jail. That's what I'm talking about. Now, look, perhaps the mistake the Tate brothers made was setting up a base of operations in Romania, of all places. And I don't know why they chose that place. Because, I mean, it's not like Eastern Europe is known for, being anti-corrupt.
Right.
If you take a look at what's going on in Ukraine right now.
It bit him back. He said that's the reason he was there is because you could get away with a lot of things, but they didn't think that this would actually happen.
Of course it will.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
like.
That's what I
the
think,
thing
too.
about the U.S. I was talking to. Well, I'll keep the story relatively private because I don't know if it's a public story. But they do this race. I forgot what it's called. They race across Russia, and because there's so much corruption, you can go 120 miles an hour. You get pulled over. You just hand cash to the cop, and you're free to go. Like you can't do that in the United States.
Which, by the way, that's most countries in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Not in the United States, though.
Yeah.
We talk about our political corruption, but let's be honest, like cops tend to not be corrupt. I mean, we have corrupt cops. We have abusive cops. But I guarantee you, if you get pulled over and say to the cop, you're going to offer him a bribe, he's going to be like, out of the car, you're under arrest.
Yeah, no, that's
and
just
he's
our
gonna-
politicians.
Right. Politicians are different.
Right.
They get bribes from the lobbyists.
Right.
But a cop is going to lock you up and be like, I'm not going down for what you just did. I'm taking the note. You offered me a bribe. You're under arrest.
I think people in general don't. It's a strange dichotomy where we believe that where relatively to places like South Africa, for example,
Hey, shout out.
American police are far more. Far less corrupt, I should say, relatively than there or anywhere in some of these Eastern European post-Soviet countries. But at the same time, our politicians are far, far, far more corrupt than the politicians of almost any other country. We don't talk about it that way for some reason. Mm-hmm. But the amount of money and Ian, you just explained it very well how it happens. That the amount of money that's able to find their way into their pockets, there's a reason that, like Gavin Newsom, right? To go look at the Maglev project, the high-speed rail of California that never existed, despite spending tens of billions of dollars, which of course was washed back into his campaigns, which was washed back into his support, that went to all these developers and consultants and environmental impact surveys, et cetera, et cetera. The whole thing was a money wash, the same way that Libya and Afghanistan, the current situation, these are money washes by and large. And George Orwell wrote this when talking about warfare, but you could talk about it with a lot of these government corrupt agencies, that the point of the war is not so that it should be won. The point of the war is that it should be continuous.
Yeah. Money-making machine, I guess.
I'm deeply concerned about this Andrew Tate thing at this point. This is really starting to bother me because these girls were very plain that they weren't being roughed up by them, that they weren't being trafficked by him. They specifically said it out loud to the judge, and it was dismissed. Like, this is insane.
They made videos about it where they were like, "This is not true. They're calling us victims. We're not victims." And they're like, "Yeah, they're just brainwashed."
I mean, show me where's the evidence? Like, the passport was taken and it was put in the safe, and they were told that they couldn't get the passport back, and so they were stuck in the country until they worked off their debt. Lay that out for me, right? If that's what happened, lay it out. Yeah. Show it to me. Show me the evidence. And I've always said this: name the names, show me the evidence. Let's have it all out. I'm perfectly happy with looking into any of those situations. Yeah. But for some reason in this case, you don't seem to get that. And by the way, if that ends up being what it is, then okay, so be it, right?
Totally.
But show me that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the process is concerning because I think they're treating the process as the punishment.
Kafka's book, The Trial, in the original German, the title is Der Prozess, and the main character, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but the main character he's charged at the beginning. He's brought into, and this is in the 1920s, and this was like Weimar Germany. He was writing that, so he's charged. He's brought in to jail. He's told that he's going to, this is your lawyer. These are the different arguments that you can make. This is what you could do at the trial. He goes to the trial, et cetera, et cetera. The very last scene of the whole thing, he's being drug away to his own execution, but never once in the book do they actually say what he was charged with.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Der Prozess.
Man.
Well, we're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member over at timcast.com to check out our members only uncensored show, which goes up at about 11 p.m. Always good, not so family friendly fun. So definitely could use your support. Smash that like button. Let's read what y'all got to say in the Super Chats. All right. Gross John says, shout out to Pop Culture Crisis. Search Pop Culture Crisis Greatest Hits on YouTube if you want to see PCC parody and out of context, including Scary Mary, Robot Mary, Mary Saves the World, Ian in Smurfland, and Hannah Claire's sweet dance moves.
Oh my gosh, I hate that video. It's hilarious, but like...
Wow.
You're dancing.
So good.
Yeah,
Getting
there's
pop culture crisis
They've got
meme
like a serious meme culture on Pop Culture Crisis,
yeah.
or at least meme creators that support them, which is super cool. It's a great show.
Ryan Hunter says, "Can I get a happy birthday today for my great grandmother Eleanor, who is 100?
Nice.
Everything from the Great Depression to now in one person's life.
Amazing.
Wow, happy birthday, Eleanor.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There you go.
Nice job.
OMG Puppy says, haha balloons. China and Russia have satellites. In fact, guess who launched the world's first satellite? It was Russia. It was Sputnik, right? I do believe that was the first Sputnik.
Also, the first, I don't want to say manned, but the first satellite with a living creature,
Right.
The monkey.
the dog.
Oh, they
Laika.
sent a dog. Did it
You
ever?
know
Like
the
a
urban legend.
Stray dog from the streets of Moscow.
Right.
You know the urban legend that Yuri Gagarin's not the first man in space?
Oh wait, who do they say it was?
I don't know the name, but they think that the Soviets launched a man in space and he got lost.
Oh right, no, I have heard this.
And so
that-
they never said anything. So they
by the
said,
way,
hey, he's
Laika.
it.
Who was
Laika.
Laika?
Shout out to Laika, the first dog in space.
Oh, wow. Did it make it back?
No.
No, definitely not.
Where did it go?
To doggy heaven.
But I mean, like, did the ship just
science.
go and disappear in space?
No, it came back.
It
Oh, okay,
it fell
but
back.
It fell back, but-
burned on the impact
but
down.
yeah,
Oh,
no,
sad,
Laika
sad.
did not make it back.
They trained the dog to press buttons and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, there was a whole program, physical conditioning, had to give up cigarettes. It was.
Oh,
it was a whole deal.
Have some
All right,
chat
we got
for
this.
Laika.
We got this one from Matthew Recamp. He says, "I got to push back on your take on Omar. First, she's not being kicked from all committees like MTG, just the Foreign Affairs Committee. Second, her defense for making anti-Semitic
don't worry, we
comments
can
that
try
she
harder.
didn't know tropes that anyone could tell about. She claims she didn't know there were anti-Semitic tropes about Jews and money." And everybody's just like, "Oh, come on, dude.
What?
Yeah, no.
No way."
Matt Gaetz, when he was on, said he would like to come back with Ilhan Omar at some point. I think
Or
that could be
AOC.
really good. Or AOC.
Yeah.
He said AOC.
He said Ilhan Omar to me, and I thought that'd be a great, absolute, because we're young. These people.
I don't think Ilhan Omar. AOC maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with the politics, but that's the point.
But
that's why we
would you
Congress.
if she was willing?
That's a tough question, because Ilhan Omar, like the show that we would have with Ilhan Omar would be, I mean, she's involved in a lot of shady stuff, right?
Yeah.
The guy she was cheating on the wife and all that stuff, the weird brothers stuff. That's why I'm like, I don't think she'd come on this show, because we're gonna be like, let's talk about these social media posts.
Yeah, true.
Remember those? And they took them down, but they're archived. And it was Star Tribune in Minnesota that wrote, they actually said this, that her husband may be her brother.
Yeah.
And then I read that and I went, whoa, they actually said that? And then Media Matters claimed I said it. And I'm like, hey, this is Star Tribune. This is like a prominent newspaper. I don't know if she's going to want to come on the show. Their people are going to be like, do not go on that show. AOC, maybe. But AOC, like, if AOC were to come on the show, I would have tremendous respect for her bravery in the face of me calling her a liar who fabricated a fake Capitol January 6th story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you ask her about it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no
think
freebies.
You would have them on the show. It's just that they wouldn't accept, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The way
And the
Gates,
shows would be nuts.
Matt was
Well, that's why I
saying, like,
prefaced it,
Ilhan,
if,
you know?
if they were willing.
If they were willing,
Yeah.
it's not this podcast issue. It's them, right?
Yeah, always is.
Like the issue is, and the left, they live in this brainwashed cult world for the most part. Not every single one. Many people just don't really pay attention. But it's like the worst things you could say about Matt Gaetz. Hey, that turned out to be fake. It was blackmail on his family. This crazy story they ran about him. And then it was like, oh, it was blackmail. And the guy's getting arrested for it now. So it's like, okay, well, I don't need to talk to him about it. That seems nonsensical. But like, Ilhan Omar was with this guy.
It'd be like having Donald Trump up and asking about the Steele dossier.
Yeah, it's just not real, you know?
Yeah.
Well, let's read some more. What do we got? Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, I got the new LGBTQ Sims update. I'm a trans woman athlete conquering female sports, but I'm having to restart the game because I keep dying suddenly. Well, I heard about the new inclusive Sims update.
Yeah.
Alessio Demonte says, money for Bucko. Thank you very much.
Oh my God.
It was expensive. Devonk says, shout out to Bocus. Mr. Bocus, I hope this treatment works.
Yeah, he looks good. I'll let him know.
How often do you
I think
take
it's
him
gonna
back?
work.
You take him back
Every 2 weeks.
For how long?
Well, there's 3 doses lined up, and then I think it might just continue on. I don't know exactly.
I think we just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then if this works, we had the prognosis from the vet, from I think 3 different vets. He's not going to make it. His kidneys are declining. When we brought him in the first time, they're like, it's stage 3 kidney failure. And then it moved to like stage 4. And they're like, he's not going to make it. So now we're getting him this treatment. And if he does, they got to like publish something about, put his data in something.
Yeah, we're taking data as we go, like
It's a
his
case
eats, his
study,
poops.
yeah.
And the real expensive part was the actual harvesting. It's a one-time thing, was like $5,000. The rest of it's, nickels and dimes. It's about $1,000 is the rest of it after that. So if you are considering a treatment like that, just know that going in, it's a one-time big payment.
I just don't think most people can afford to spend.
Yeah,
that
we got to
kind of
make this a cheaper technology.
Yeah,
That's
but
a big part of my
Isn't
goal
there a
right
place
now.
in pet cloning is starting to come online in places like South Korea?
I would never do that.
Clonaid. Did you know that company Clonaid? We were
They
looking
clone
at
your
that last
pet?
night.
No.
I would
They
never
clone
do
all
that.
sorts of stuff.
I wouldn't do it.
Nah, not interested. No,
I wouldn't
Mr.
mind,
Bokus is
like-
Mr. Bokus. I
I
don't
wouldn't
want some
mind, like,
soulless demon cat.
Clonaid
you know?
is a human cloning.
Wouldn't mind like a
organization.
family member, like if you you got a dog from somewhere, and then hey, this is like the nephew or whatever. Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Do you
That's just like
think
breeding,
clones
though.
have souls?
Above my pay grade.
I don't know. I feel like if you cloned your pet, you'd get like a soulless, kind of thing.
They got souls.
I feel
not
like
that
what's hard is, like-
I don't think people.
Well, I assume you mean clones of people.
Well, like,
Yeah.
But-
if you cloned your pet, it doesn't mean it would be exactly the same in every way, right? Like your pet develops
Pet
its
Sematary.
personality, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
I've
it'd be a
never seen
different
it, but
animal.
it
Sometimes
would still end up.
better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be sad? Or like you love your pet and then it's just like
This
Yo,
one
I
doesn't
can't.
like you that
Pet
much?
Cemetery
Yeah.
though, that's one of those movies where, and just like the new Halloween, that like once you have kids, you just can't watch stuff like that anymore. You totally
Why?
can't.
True. Right.
Because you just psychologically and biologically and spiritually, you can't help but think, what if that were my kid?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it just even the thought of it just absolutely drives me.
I don't watch
up the
horror
wall.
movies anymore. I just real life. I go on Twitter if I want to see horror.
Yeah, just drive around Baltimore.
Goldilocks Production says you're being shadow banned. Your stream won't show up at all unless I go to your channel now. YouTube isn't liking you right now, and the YouTube overlords deemed you fake news.
Tim, just lock your account.
Yeah. This has always been the case, though.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? I'm willing to. People are like, "How is Matt Gaetz asked, like, how is this show?" I think it was Matt Gaetz. Like, how are you still here? And I think it's that they tried shadow banning us, but people choose to come and watch the show, and that's organic viewership. You can't algorithmically erase.
Right.
They can try and ban us, I guess, but then it's just like it backfires.
Does it ever get better? Like
Rumble,
you go through
baby.
periods where you're more shadow banned versus less, or does it just continuously get worse over time?
So we consistently are the #1 live show in this time slot. I mean, there's other live shows that are big throughout the week or whatever, but we do a show every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. live. We rival the numbers of some of the big networks in terms of key demo viewership. I think YouTube really likes that. They're like, look, we've got a show. I mean, the politics may be an issue, but it's bigger than CNN. It's bigger than MSNBC, and it rivals slightly below Fox News in key demo viewership. And even sometimes, we do well across the board, but Fox gets like 175K in the key demo, and we get like 150. So, shout out Tucker. We're not going to beat Tucker. I don't think we will. But I think if we were going by the actual proper algorithm, we would be trending every day. And so it may be they removed us from the ability to trend just because they're like, we'd own trending tab every day for this time slot. But I think it's more likely it's just political.
My guess is it's not on the trending because it's political, and it becomes the political network. If you go to YouTube and you see our
One show?
thing talking about,
do other political
Yeah.
shows trend though?
No. But is it the pop culture network because they have music videos? I mean, what? Like news is a genre, and this is an entertainment show. This is not a politics show.
Right.
This is an entertainment show. But we talk culture and politics. Like a good portion of the show, we're talking cultural issues. So it's not news and politics.
I would love to trend this show, but I understand as an admin why you're reticent to put politics anywhere near the front page. You want like grandma to come, be comfortable when she arrives and not have to be red pilled. That's the idea. I think.
That means they're shadow banning the show.
Weirder stuff
Unfortunately-
trends on YouTube that I wouldn't want my grandma to see. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Very
I
true.
feel like that we're not as bad as some of the stuff that makes the list.
It's like if you want to get red pilled, you got to go look for it. I think maybe that's the admin mindset because
Let's read this. Max Reddick says, Tim, for many super chats now, I've tried to get you to call people like Hassan, the Young Turks, Cedar, etc., etc. You finally did it. Thank you. Only issue is I got lit up in the YouTube comments for thanking you. They suggested killing myself. Yikes. There's nasty people.
Whoa, dude.
So the Young Turks, I did a video where I was explaining that men and women have different standards, and that as a man, if you compliment another guy's looks and his outfit and his physique, like, you've been working out, man, like, wow, you're looking pretty good. It's not really that big of a deal. Some people might find it weird, be like, okay. But if you do it to a woman, it's just over the line, period. Like if you went to a woman and said, wow, you're looking good, you working out, that's a great outfit, she's going to be like, hey, please don't comment on my looks or anything like that. The Young Turks took that clip where I was quite literally saying, you cannot sexually harass women, and then used it to claim I was arguing you should be allowed to because it's equality.
I did not.
They just made it up.
I'm missing this logic. on this one. I think I haven't seen the video or something.
Okay. If you're a guy and you go to work and you see another guy.
Yeah, you're talking about like in the workplace.
Yes, we're at work.
Or
and
like a subway.
You mentioned Luke was looking ripped.
Yeah, fine as. Let's just say that.
Now say
Luke
that.
looking good.
Now, what do you think happens if you would say that about a female coworker?
I would probably get extricated from the situation.
I
would hope.
That's exactly what I said. That you like Ian, were like, I saw Luke, modeling these eggs, and he's all ripped and looking good, and I'm like, damn, he's looking good. Emasculated me. You can't say that. I saw this woman downstairs and she's taking her shirt off, and I'm like, oh man, she's looking good. Ooh, I'm getting all.
Make me want to have babies.
Yeah, you can't say that. Like they're gonna be like, yo, inappropriate. There's different standards for men and women. So Young Turks took me saying, you can say this to a guy and no one really cares, but you cannot say this to a woman. It's sexual harassment. They said Tim Pool wishes he could sexually harass women.
Oh, so they're assuming intent? They're assuming...
No. They're fabricating it, taking the quote out of context to make it, and then telling people I argued the opposite of what I argued.
That's just a lie.
They're evil.
That's not even clever. That's just a lie.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Right.
That's what they're thinking. That's what I was calling out. And then I got pissed because it's like, I made this whole video saying the military-industrial complex is bad and we shouldn't be supporting foreign invasions. We should be fixing the pipes in Flint and Newark and other cities where kids are drinking lead. We shouldn't be spending any money on gender studies in Pakistan. It was $10 million. And then Hassan insults and derides me and says it's agitprop for conservatives. He says that I'm supporting capitalism. And I'm like, why can't he be like, okay, we agree on this one. Let's get Tim Pool to give us his to get let's come together with him and his audience, and maybe we can actually get some healthcare for these people who are blind. Because that's what I'm saying. No. His point was, ha 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 ha. I can't believe he would say that. It's agitprop. Like, why are you deriding me at all?
That's the video where he got up and went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
While reacting or commentating to it, right? Like,
yeah, he's like,
I feel like what he's trying to say is like, get off my side. We can't have anything in common. You're the enemy.
And then he says, I think the comments were arguing that I was trying to trick their followers into agreeing with me or whatever, and it's like, wait, I'm literally agreeing with you.
While you twist your mustache, you're such an evil villain.
Here's how it works. It's because Young Turks will take a video out of context, and then Hassan and others will react to that fake video, and they'll make up in their minds a fake version of me because they don't actually watch this show.
Correct.
And you too, and that's the game they play because they're evil.
And so what they're doing is, and you see this, by the way, in a lot of cult psychology, it's sort of this idea of you can't go and listen to another outlet because those people are crazy and not just have a difference of opinion, but are bad and are bad for you, are toxic, are nightmarish. Others. This is what some cults refer to as a schismatic person or a suppressive person that you must to your point, to extricate people from your life, even if they're a family member who's simply saying things that they disagree with, because you have to maintain your audience. This is why if you're someone who has read the New York Times cover to cover every day for the last 6 years, imagine how much you've been lied to. Imagine how much you've been propagandized. Imagine how much you believe about the world that is completely false. But they keep telling you that people like Jack Posobiec and Tim Pool and Tucker Carlson, Steve whatever, are all liars and crazy tinfoil hat believers. And so you better not listen. So what they're doing is they're just essentially constantly pimping out their own audience.
My favorite part of this was when he's reacting to the video, and I said, this is why I'm in favor of some kind of New Deal type infrastructure rebuilding project in the US, so we could fix the roads and bridges that are falling apart, fill potholes, fix these pipes in places like Flint. And that's why when the Green New Deal was announced, I was actually really excited and came out in support of it. And then, of course, when they actually released the resolution and it was free college for people of color, I was like, I have no idea what this is. And the reaction from his audience was, they were like, since when does Tim Pool support Green New Deal, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, in 2018, 5 years ago, when I made a video saying the US could invest in energy independence with new technologies like fusion and nuclear reactors, creating jobs, we're fixing our bridges and roads, and I think that's a better spending of our money than blowing up kids in Afghanistan, since I've always maintained that position. These people don't actually pay attention.
Which, by the way, though, and I keep saying this is why I've decided to really adopt Darren Beatty's formulation on this of the globalist American empire. that these client states and these endless wars don't necessarily exist, obviously, for the reason that we're told they exist. They exist as a money wash. They exist as a way to enforce and expand the authority of the GAE. They will always be looking for and the IMF, the World Bank, they're always going to be looking for a place where they can conduct what they call shock therapy. And so
we got to read more super chats.
Real quick on that, just to finish the point. If the Tates were looking for a place that they could operate outside of scrutiny, what do you think our leaders are doing?
That's right. All right. Jesposito says, what are your thoughts on Jordan Peterson announcing on Rogan that he started an international consortium in London to officially oppose the vision of the World Economic Forum with an alternative that's to be announced? Also love when Hannah Claire was on.
I like
Thanks.
it.
But London?
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. Why not El Salvador?
Yes.
I'm not even kidding. I'm going to say this right now. Dr. Peterson, please, El Salvador. I'm not kidding. I mean this absolutely seriously. What's going on in El Salvador is amazing. You guys should follow Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert. Herbert? Is that?
Yeah, Stacey Herbert.
Stacey Herbert. I always get her last name wrong for some reason. But follow them because they're awesome. They're basically, we talked about this last night, and then Max tweeted at me like, we got to come down and do this show. But they gave Bitcoin to everybody. Crime is dropping. The standard of living is skyrocketing. People are moving down there. And this follows, in my view, a vision of freedom inverse to what Davos is. Not to mention the climate is inverse to what Davos is. They go there, It's winter, it's skiing, it's snow. El Salvador is, closer to the equator. It's warmer. It's in Central America. More fun. I think the right place for this to be, Dr. Peterson, is El Salvador.
Oh, hell yes.
Seriously, though.
I love the idea. I was thinking the other night that I believe we need a world congress of some sort that's like an Olympics of the mind, that we can all, regardless of who's at war, we can all come together in some level and talk about bigger things. And this might be it.
I couldn't disagree more. I think that any attempt, I think that when you name something, you give it power. I don't think that, I think Shakespeare is wrong that, a rose by another nose, other name, etc. That when you're talking about a global consortium or a world congress or any of these types of entities that exist to sort of guide and give effort to, the policies of Brussels and the policies of Washington are fundamentally different. We are always going to have different self-interests. And so that's fine if you want to have forums to hash this stuff out. But the idea of all of that, it just strikes me as part of the same neoliberal project, neocom project, to build a one world government that's been going on since Woodrow Wilson.
Do you think it's inevitable anyway?
I don't think so.
Do you think if we called roses snargle farts, people would still give them to each other as a sign of romantic gestures?
Well, if you associated the word snargle fart with that. No, obviously, right? What you're saying, it makes complete sense. That
rose by any other name.
Fart, then no, you wouldn't want that. Tanya, I would say, sweetheart, it's Valentine's Day. Here's your bouquet of snargle farts.
Daisy sounds nice.
Call them Nazi war crimes, and I bet a lot less people will be handing them out.
There we are.
There we are. Industry is like, this is how we get them.
There we are.
Well, I think that the New World Order is appearing regardless. The liberal economic order could be potentially morphed into it, but if we don't, BRICS will be morphed into it, and we'll be living under some corporate communist thumb.
Let's read some more super chats. We got Preston Tem, who says, your segment this afternoon about gym clout chasers and years ago similar situations is precisely why I have serious hesitations about helping anyone I don't personally know. Accusations supersede innocence in the public eye.
True.
It's a video I talked about where a woman is trying to squat too much weight and she can't get back up, and she's looking around going, hey, excuse me, and there's guys and they're just like they walk past, they don't pay attention, they're not looking, and maybe they have earbuds in, I don't know, but she's like sitting there for a good 2 minutes and no one helps her until finally a lady comes up. And I just gotta tell you, if I'm a dude, she's clearly not in distress, I don't know what she wants. Right. I'm gonna go to a staff member and be like, she's yelling. I don't know what it's about.
I will help.
Well, and Jack's first reaction was like, do you think it was a trap? Do you think she was trying to see who would come up
I
to her?
do wonder, and maybe it's because I spend entirely too much time on Twitter, but the fact that she's not really vocalizing anything, I'm wondering, and I'm just asking the question, I'm not accusing, but I'm wondering was this potentially done as a social experiment?
Because she was just like, hey. She wasn't loud. She was like, hello, hey, can you come over here? She wasn't like loud.
Or is she assuming because she's been told over and over again, when you go to the gym, men stare at you constantly, you can't get away from them staring at you, that like she just assumed men were looking at her and therefore they would notice her. Like that seems like a level of arrogance to me.
I have a question. Should I say this? So I'm just going to say it, fine. Are we really supposed to? So let's say it's not a social experiment. So you're filming yourself because you know you're filming a thirst trap. This is obviously
Yeah,
a thirst
of course.
trap.
She's wearing skin tight.
She's wearing
pants.
skin tight pants at a gym. She's doing that. She's filming it from that angle because she wants to post it later on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. And we have this whole economy set up based on thirst trapping, and yet we're supposed to say that even though it's totally fine for her to do that, and we allow that in the gym. Like, if you're going to set up a new gym, why not say no thirst trapping in the gym? What about that? Would that be sexual harassment?
What do you do? Like, women have to wear niqabs or something. Like, if you want to wear skin tight pants, do it.
No, I'm talking about the filming of it.
Yeah, maybe
But
no
she's
filming in the
just-
gym.
The act of filming of it to then she's checking her form.
She's checking her
right?
form.
Yeah,
You
checking
don't know
her
what
form,
you
right.
like. You're accusing her
Please.
of thirst trapping when really she's just trying to get better.
Yes,
like
yeah.
there's-
Exactly,
This
I am.
logic can just go on and on and on. I mean,
No, this is obviously
Well,
thirst trapping,
this is what I
and the
said. I
problem is
said-
that we have a low trust society now because we've destroyed our communities. We've become overly litigious. We punish people for just simply what we used to call doing the right thing or using common sense.
Right.
And this is the reason that something like that, if that were true, that somebody could be hurt, somebody could be killed because we think, well, you can't. This is why you go on SEPTA, and there will be women getting raped on a SEPTA train outside of Philadelphia, and nobody does anything.
There's this boy.
Let's, we got to
who
read,
cried
read
wolf.
more.
Yeah,
We got to read more super chats. We got Bad B says, guys, how long after the Spanish flu did the World War start? That's how long till the next World War starts. I'm
2
pretty
years.
sure
It was after the
It was
Great
after
War.
the start.
Yeah, it was like
Well, we don't know.
1919.
Yeah, that's right. It was after the
It
start.
was
yeah.
because of World War One
Correct.
and the
The
trenches.
returning, right.
They were
Right.
coming back, and they had the flu.
Have you seen some of that footage of the trenches out
man.
in eastern Ukraine right now, the
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Donbass region?
Oh, and we're dropping the grenades into them and stuff.
Well, I just mean even
It's the same thing.
because, and I think Elon even made this point that tanks in general are kind of becoming obsolete. If you have drones and precision targeting, then a tank is just a steel coffin.
This is very important, guys.
So it brings us back to trench warfare.
Isaac says vitamin C is in pine needles. There is more vitamin C in a Christmas tree than in an orchard of oranges.
Very true.
What? For real?
Hire that guy.
So how many do you need to eat? Like, how do you do it? You like mash them and then eat them?
or like
kind
grind
of.
them into things, maybe like granola or like.
You
whatever
boil
else.
the pine needles
Yes.
and make a tea. I
Correct.
think that's the
Really?
main.
Just smoke them, man. Just smoke 'em.
Smoke that.
Smoke it.
Yeah, then you take some
Do not
husky.
smoke.
I feel like that
Just
cuts
smoke
down
it.
on the vitamin C. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
There's only one way to find out.
Okay.
All right. James Moaning says, Jack, great to see you. What's your favorite psalm? I like Psalm 10. Blessings to you and the Timcast family.
I'm Catholic. I go with whatever one the Mass tells us.
Well, there you go. Simple answer. All right. Charles says, how are chickens going to save our society? Sure, I'd love to move away, but how can we? My children are suffering. That's my fault due to my past. How do they survive? What should I do? We started this, not them. Still waiting on the app. The app is happening. We've got it. There's like a rudimentary version. It works. We're just working on it. Watching 1883 was really enlightening. How did people survive literally in the middle of nowhere with nothing?
I'm so glad you watched it. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I thought watching it. Like, it's crazy to think that to get to Oregon, people had to cross completely uncharted land with nothing and
Yep.
just hope that they would get there, right? Try their best,
Found the
work
Zoomer,
hard.
by the way.
No, but here's the thing too.
Every millennial knows exactly what it takes to cross the Oregon Trail.
They
No,
often-
I think that video game made it seem too easy.
And they often talk about how hard it was to cross a river, but they never talk about getting wagons through a forest.
Right.
What would you do when you came to a forest?
Yeah.
It's
Would you
too
just
thick.
go around it,
You try, maybe.
Go under it, maybe? I'm just kidding.
through the trees?
I try and follow
maybe?
the trail. Yeah,
But there was no
blaze
trail.
The trail
No, right.
before the trail.
And you're trying
That'd
to-
be a good movie called Before the Trail.
Well,
And
it's
you're
certainly
trying
not a
to
trail
race-
that a wagon can go through, though.
True.
And you're trying to race all of the elements, right? Like, you have to get there before winter. And
This is
everything's
the Donner Expedition.
it's crazy.
Like little to
I
no
was-
water.
Yeah.
I mean, how much pain were they in too? Because the history books don't talk about the daily amounts of pain that each
One thing
individual
that I
is feeling.
think that, and I was talking to a buddy about this recently because we were talking about the history of the Rosary, and it's a long story, but I think one thing that we discount in modern society is just how much of your day, how many hours a day that people would just spend walking, because that was
Right.
predominantly the only way you could get from one point to another, really,
Right.
before horses too. That or if you couldn't afford horses, actually not before horses, that people just walk for hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
And this was
How
part
many-
of a common life until maybe
Very
a couple
recently.
hundred years. Very, very recently.
I used to walk New York, Manhattan. Man, You ever do that? You ever walk like 40th Street down to Battery Park or anything like that?
I'd thought to myself,
God.
well, in the city, when I lived in Shanghai, one thing about living in a police state that it is always safe to walk across Shanghai. It could be 3 a.m. and you could walk from the Bund all the way to Zhongshan Park, and you'll be perfectly fine.
You would probably not walk from Washington D.C. to Harper's Ferry several hundred years ago.
I'd prefer.
I'm sorry. You would probably not walk it in a day, is what I meant to say.
No,
it's a 17-hour walk. And so you're probably going to walk, if you're walking nonstop, 10 hours and then stop and make camp.
That's a 2-day right there.
Yep.
And
it's a 45 minute drive for us.
Yeah.
Hour.
When you read like Jane Austen novels will talk about like these, you go out, you walk to your neighbor's house, but then there's a rainstorm and it already took you all day to get there, so you just stay. Like,
this is a feature.
This is someone you live near.
This is a feature in the Song of Ice and Fire novels that Game of Thrones is based on, that people say, well, there's whole chapters and chapters where nothing's happening because they're just walking. And his point is, well, no, that's what it was like.
Right. I tried to do a D&D campaign like that. My buddy, I was like, he was born in this Arctic village and he had to get out. He was going to get out. So I gave him an easy way. You could wait for the train. He's like, no, I'm going to walk. I was like, all right, roll. He's like, I rolled a 16. All right, you take 1 damage from cold. You walk for 5 minutes. Roll. And I was like, this is going to be boring as hell. So we ended. I was like, you freeze to death. We start a new game.
All right, let's read some more.
He starts on the train.
Andrew Ho says, Tim, they have a signed receipt of drop-off by Hunter Biden. Bongino shows it all the time. That's right. They have the receipt.
That's right.
He signed it. This dude's out of his mind.
But that was forged. We all know that was forged.
Okay. All right. X-Raid says, Jack, what advice do you have for a veteran who has opted to not re-enlist because of what the military has become? I'd love to be a part of TPUSA.
I would honestly suggest re-enlist if you're interested. If you want to get out, A million ways to contact us, contact Turning Point. But I do think that in general, we need people that are still in there. We need good people in there.
You need people in high positions of authority. So maybe when the Don comes, he can get rid of some of these really awful high-level administrators and generals or whatever.
That's certainly the plan. And just to put it out there, that given everything that we've talked about, I really do think there's only one chess player or chess piece on the board that could solve all of these things that we're talking about, specifically the war and peace, World War III problems.
Yeah.
There's only one person that is not beholden to these things.
Bill Hughes says, part of my family is Irish. They were oppressed and discriminated against for being the wrong race and religion. I'm also Irish.
Oh, me too.
I think we need free money from the government. That's the only way.
True that.
It's the only
forced to fight in Civil War.
That's right.
Both sides in some cases, as a replacement for.
That's right.
I'm a child of immigrants. I feel like I need some kind of compensation. Our country is not.
You're basically a refugee.
I basically am.
A refugee. Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we got here. We'll grab some more. Here's a good one. Donald DeVol says, I stand behind Alec Baldwin. And because the joke is, I stand behind Alec Baldwin because if you stand in front of him, you might get shot. Oof, that's so brutal. All right, everybody. If you haven't already, actually, we'll read one more. Frump says, weird I have to pay to say this, but I have not received an Amber Alert in 3 years. They used to be annoying, but now it's weird. All right. Wait. Okay.
That is a good
setting
comment.
turned off on your phone?
If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com, because we're going to have a members-only uncensored show coming up for you in about 1 hour. So go to timcast.com, click Join Us, and you can sign up. And we have a huge library of content. Cast Castle, funny skits where we make fun of cultural, political issues, and we do sketches that kind of, poke fun. And, of course, the Timcast IRL Uncensored Members Show, which we're going to have up for you tonight. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Jack, you want to shout anything out?
Going to be at Minds Fest coming up tax day, April 15th, down in Austin. Very excited. I think you're going to be down the day before, right?
The day before we're doing IRL Live.
We're
sold out, but you should come down for sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Check that out. I think it's minds.com, festival.minds.com. And of course, for anyone who is going to be staying up to wait for that third hour, that third uncensored special, I know you have to wait another hour. I know you're going to be tired. I know you're going to feel, how can I sleep? How can I get through the next day? There's so much happening. The threat of nuclear war looms on the horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Lindell has been working on a top secret project. It's even more top secret than the documents that Joe Biden has in his underpants. This is My Pillow 2. It just dropped. It has been released to the world, revealed to us in our time of need. MyPillow.com, promo code POSO.
Jack Posobiec is the other MyPillow guy.
Yes.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow at Timcast News on Twitter, and you should also follow Timcast News on Instagram. Newly launched today, I believe. So go check that out. You can follow me personally at hannahclaire.b on Instagram, and you can follow me on Twitter at HCBrimlow. Thanks so much.
I also will be at the Minds Fest in Austin, April 15th. It's festival.minds.com. You are right, Jack Posobiec.
See you there, man.
Yeah, I'll see you on stage.
We should have a debate on something.
We should talk about God and Christianity and religion and maybe let it fly.
Ian, go to Latin Mass.
I have in the past.
Go again.
I would be open to that. I would go with you.
Keep going.
So basically, we're doing it's two separate events. Basically, we have Timcast IRL live Friday night at the Vulcan, and then the next day the Minds Festival. So it's like two birds with one stone. Same venue.
Yeah.
And we're all hanging out with each other, basically.
A love fest, in the words
Yeah,
of
I think
Bill
it's fantastic.
Ian and I are going to Latin Mass. Come with us.
So
Let's rock and roll.
if you're not from Austin and you really wanted to come see the show, you've got an opportunity to see two different shows. So you make a whole weekend out of it. So I'm excited.
Should be very cool, and it will be very cool. Also, if we can get Mike Lindell to thread some graphene into one of his upcoming pillows, I'd be really into it. This jacket has graphene in it.
There's only so many things I can talk about here on the open show, but for the members show, we'll get into it.
It's going to get dark, it's going to get hot, and then it's going to get light again. Okay, hey, Serge, nice hat.
Hey, yeah, I wore the hat I've been wearing for a while. I haven't worn it in like probably.
I thought that was so funny.
It's funny. It's because I wore it in the beginning and I stopped wearing it for a little bit. I wore that like Epstein didn't Epstein himself hat, and then I brought it back for old times.
And it's true the ball on the head is so sailors when they were under the deck, when they lifted their head, they didn't bump their head on the wood.
Yeah, apparently. I think they took that from the old Scandinavian tradition of just palming the hat. But anyways, I'm at Serge.com on Twitter. I'm arguing with a lot of people there. I kind of get Twitter now, but yeah.
All right. All right, everybody. We will see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.
Cheers.